Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 142. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I am Sean Whalen, Dr. Norge on the Comics Forum, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host Jim. I turned Zeus's throne into a bidet and blamed it on Darkseid. So says the sensei of the Whatnot Segulin and master of underhanded mischief.
Outstanding! Outstanding! Hold on, that gets a... Oh, man, nice.
We are obviously talking about, if you've read it, Wonder Woman number 26 this episode. We're doing kind of, and we're laughing about it, a mini episode right now because we have a lot of recording we're doing coming up this weekend. We are preparing for our Doom Patrol episode. And Simulated Stereo is 14 hours time difference from us. We're doing a big recording all day Saturday. So we didn't want to not give you an episode now. But by the same token, we had to keep preparing for that. So I'm a little behind on my JSA notes. And we decided that we're going to add issue number 21 of JSA, which is the follow-up to the 3 specials. So we're going to talk on our next episode about the 3 specials from JSA and number 21 and Doom Patrol. That's going to be out by Monday at the latest. I'm going to try to get it out Sunday night, but I'm thinking Monday is going to be about when it's going to be released. And we are proud members, as always, of the Comics Podcast Network and the League of Comic Book Podcasts. Jim and I are going to be at the New York Comic Con.
Dun 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 dun.
Please come talk to us. Please come talk to us.
Because if not, I'm going to keep singing.
Yes. It's February 6th through the 8th. We're going to be there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 2009. There's a handy link at RagingBullets.com, so please go ahead and check that out. I've been tweaking the site a little bit, and you'll see the brand new banner up there. We're going to be in the podcast arena once again. We're going to be there. We want to meet you guys. Please come over there. We are going to have our recording equipment. I'm actually going to bring the mics, and we're going to have everything set up. If you're there, we want to get your thoughts on comics you're enjoying, any news that are coming out of panels or things that you might have gone to, your overall feelings on the New York Comic Con in general. We want to be doing a lot of stuff straight from the show floor, so please bring that stuff with you because we're going to be recording right there. You will be on the show, and we want you on the show. We love that, so please don't. A lot of times we've gotten listeners that have sent us emails saying that we're kind of nervous to come up and that type of thing. Please don't be. We want you there because that's part of the fun for cons for me, and I know it is for you too, Jim, to have listeners sitting there with us and recording. So please stop by the table, see us. Click on the banner, though, on RagingBullets.com. Visit the New York Comic Con site and get yourself, check and see all the creators that are going to be there. It's a huge list.
And this is a list that's constantly growing. Every time I go back to the site, I'll check it out. I'll see new people on there. We're looking at some really cool stuff, and I'm looking forward to meeting a lot of different people there.
I know Jim Lee, Jeff Johns, JMS are going to be there. We're just talking about like guests of honor people that are going to be there. But if you take a look and you keep going down the lists, there's so many classic creators that are going to be there. There are Artist Alley's huge. And this is just, we're still at a point where they're adding people to this type of thing because we're in December. So that list is going to continue to grow. So please take a look. I know Amanda Connor and Jimmy Palmiotti are going to be there, which I'm curious to see. They got to be talking Power Girl in one of the panels because it's got to be getting close to that. But great chance if you got Tara, get it signed. That'll be a great opportunity for that. But I mean, it's that list. Take a look at Artist Alley. I'm not going to do this justice at the moment because it's a very extensive list. Media, celebrities, and guests and things like that. So it's perfect. That's February 6th through 8th, 2009. Like I said, visit the website, click on it, take a look at the guest list that's going to be there, and just the amount of stuff they've already got up there, announcement-wise. I'm jazzed.
I know, yeah. And New York Con, it's been growing and growing every year. That it's they're beefing this bad boy up. It's definitely going to be an exciting time to be there. One, it's in New York City, which is a cool place to go to. And two, these guys know what they're doing, so it's going to be a pretty exciting time for us.
Yeah, I'm glad it's back in February again for myself because it's like a time of the year where really, at least for Ohio weather, the weather's not so great, so it's a great time to be at a con, going to panels, delving into all this kind of stuff with friends. So definitely check in with us if you're going to be there. We'd love to hook up with you and chat and come by the table as much as you want and visit because that's part of the fun for us. It really is, the chance to meet you guys, put faces to Nathan. We're going to see our buddy Nathan and his dad are going to be there. I can't wait for that. It is to the point, though, it's nice. We always meet new friends every year. but we also have old favorites, people that we've known for a good couple years now, and that's fun. Going to a con now and meeting Joseph Luciano's going to, we always run into him there, and we're going to be running Ziggo, and I could go on. I'm not going to do that even justice because, we got our friends from Geeks Unite. They're going to be there. Our, Ian Levinstein from Comic Timing is going to be there. Comic Geek Speak, Comic News Insider. I don't even know for sure who all's in the podcast arena yet, so I'm not going to even do that list justice. This is exciting. Your Comic-Con. We're continuing to support the Hero Initiative. That's www.heroinitiative.org or call 310-909-7809. Our sponsors continue to be dcbservice.com and instocktrades.com. dcbservice.com has not posted, as of our recording right now, the December books yet. But this is the time where the only reason why I know that, literally, as we were getting ready to record, I was checking to see if they were up yet. I love when the new books come in, because I love to see what the discounts are going to be. What's 50% off? What's 75% off? What am I going to really... Especially because I do buy a lot of collected editions. And to pre-order them at 50% off is a huge deal. Especially if you're looking at things like Absolutes, for example, that'll run up to $99 a pop. To get those at 50% off is huge. So that's one of the great things about dcbservice.com. But the great thing is when new books are announced or when big events are announced for books, they will a lot of times plop those down to 50%, 75% off. So that's great if you're trying to try something out in a new arc or a new storyline. So definitely check them out. Whatever your shipping preferences, your bag and boarding preferences, dcbservice.com accommodates your collecting needs. Next week, In Stock Trades Book of the Month, at least the first of what may be, and we're assuming is going to be a two-part segment on Doom Patrol Volume 2, The Painting That Ate Paris. And that's going to be Monday. We're going to have that on Monday. So we will be back Monday with another episode. It'll be 143 for you. And that's going to be a meaty one between that and JSA.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun day. That's going to be a fun day.
Yeah, we're going to be recording all day Saturday. So definitely if you're hearing this before Saturday and you have voicemails and things you want to send into the show, Jim and I are going to be recording all day. So send them in. We may even answer. Well, because I'll probably have it open while we're recording. So, in the event, if we're not in the middle of some heavy discussion or something like that, we may answer. Imagine you're surprised. You're going to leave a voicemail. Now you're on the air. Hello? But that's our In-Stock Trades Book of the Month. And we will, on that episode, announce our next contest winner. So, because we're going to the listeners next. So we'll get that out there and we'll announce our next winner. And then we will be getting our next book listed. So thanks for supporting us, dcbservice.com and instocktrades.com. I want to remind everyone that orders over $50 from instocktrades.com, they're free shipping. And that's a huge deal when you're getting discount trades and free shipping and no tax.
Oh, yeah.
I want to thank all of you for supporting us with Podcast Alley, Popcorn, and iTunes reviews. Everything you do to support us is tremendously helpful. We really do rely heavily on word of mouth. I want to read an email real quick. This is Sean and Jim. I wanted to thank you guys for continuing to put out high-quality podcasts. It was a pleasure meeting both of you in Chicago and talking about Final Crisis. You guys have proven to be a great Cliff Notes of the DC Universe and Wikipedia of the major DC Universe events. The in-depth discussions really helped me, a fairly new DC fan, understand who's who in the DC Universe. After listening to you guys, I sometimes go back and reread the comics, and I finally see what you see. Even though I don't agree with everything, Amazon's Attack and Countdown, for example, thank you for introducing me to the Birds of Prey and Justice Society. Your enthusiasm of comics is a breath of fresh air. Hopefully the donation I just sent you recently can help keep this great podcast going. Dr. Norge, please thank your wife for allowing you to continue to do these lengthy podcasts. I still can't get over how long the Batman Begins Dark Knight podcast was. Happy holidays to both of you. I hope 2009 brings both of you lots of great comics, no delays, and a clear-cut finale of Final Crisis. Nick in Peoria, Yojo78 on the comics forums. And he sent a nice donation. And honestly, the timing couldn't have been better because every year I've got to renew our web hosting services and our RagingBullets.com, so we can hold on to that. So it came at the time where I was getting ready to renew that, so he paid for that. So
thank you very much,
dude. Thank you very much for doing that. That was really probably one of the nicest gifts at that point in time. That's the funny thing on this show, and I know I get very aggressive about my opinions, and it comes off sometimes that, like, I have a problem if people disagree with my... It's not that. I'm just passionate about my feelings. So, I mean, I actually don't have a problem with... I know Amazon's attack, people didn't agree with... A lot of people didn't agree with us.
Oh, yeah.
And Countdown was the same thing. But that's okay. We're two fans sharing our honest opinions. And what I'm flattered about is that people like you can say that, even though I don't agree with you, I enjoy listening to those segments and things like that. That's, if you will tune into us and listen to us, even if you don't agree with us, that is probably one of the nicest compliments you can give us. Hey, I'm adamantly on the opposite side, but I still enjoyed it. So, hey, I mean, I can't think of a nicer thing. But I wanted to shout him out in the opener because the website has been something that it's been kind of a hobby within the hobby. And I want to thank you, Nick, for keeping that going for another year for us. So apparently, Jim, we're going to be around a while.
Yeah. Okay, works for me.
Because if we just paid for the website, I'm going to be putting stuff on it. So that means we need a podcast to advertise it as well. So that's great. So thank you very much for that. I also want to remind everyone, the Friends of the Show section, if you're out there and you have a comic book, a blog, anything that like kind of falls a little outside of the DC thing, and you want to advertise it on our site, let me know. If you're a friend of the show, you listen and all that stuff, and you're like, geez, guys, previously I've always been frustrated that we run into great people at cons. There's people who are doing creator-owned comics. There's people who are just doing comic-related websites and things, and I haven't been able to do anything for them because of the nature of our show. This is kind of a great way to just say, we've got this spot on our website where I can tell listeners every episode, hey, visit the Friends of the Show section. It's just friends of the show, people who really trying to get their name out there in a variety of different ways. If I don't have you up there, it's a work in progress. Please shoot me an email at ragingbullets@gmail.com. I will be happy to put up your banner, links to your websites, whatever. That's what it's for. So please be aggressive on that. Please let me know you want that stuff up there. That's what it's there for. It's just kind of our way to say thank you. Jim, what kind of a podcast are we? Because I want to talk Wonder Woman.
Well, Sean, we are a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth in the plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're reviewing. So if we're going over something you haven't read, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
And without further ado, Jim, let's talk Wonder Woman.
Hello, Sean and Jim.
Our next review is Wonder Woman number 26. The writer is Gail Simone, the penciler is Aaron Lopresti, inker is Matt Ryan, colorist is Brad Anderson, the letterer is Travis Lanham, associate editor Sean Ryan, and the editor is Matt Idelson. I was waiting for this, but I'm glad that she waited, though, a few arcs before bringing back the gods.
Yeah.
Because the timing's perfect with Final Crisis going on, and it's interesting to see how these events affect different gods.
Yeah, one of the ways you can tell when I enjoy a comic is whether, how much I talk about it with people who are outside the comic book fan, genre and like the non-fans. With this one, I not only talked to my folks about it, I called up my sister. There were some people at work who had the misfortune of saying, hey, Jim, what's new? Well, let me tell you, Gail Simone has done it again. And I just ran right into it. I've had a lot of people who are avoiding me at work now because they're sick of me talking about Wonder Woman, but now I can actually gush here so I can get it out of my system.
Big jumping on issue, too. If you haven't been reading Wonder Woman and you've been curious about it, issue 26, jump on now. This is a big arc, big things going on. This is a great jumping on issue. You can quickly, anything that went before, you can quickly figure out, but there really wasn't a whole lot of reference to anything previously, and what was referenced was explained.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
I mean, there really was nothing here that you didn't need any background from any of the previous arcs to really dive into this, because they explained it partway, as they were going through. Because the stuff with Steel and Nemesis and all that referred to backstories was explained in that segment as well. So this really is a perfect jumping on issue for anyone who's kind of like, I don't know, her run's been going on for a little bit now. Maybe I should start at the beginning. I don't know where to start. Feel free, if you're like leery to like pick up a trade to try this out, pick up the single issue, and it's perfect. It's a perfect jumping on point. And believe me, we're going to tell you why. Because I adored this. Aaron Lopresti is back, baby.
Out the park, man. Oh.
The spaceship with a mythology feel that traveled through the sun so worked for me. Kind of a modern-day approach to the gods while still keeping true to their past. And that was really important to me, that these still felt like the same gods that we saw leave previously, but there was a sense of progression with them as well.
Yeah, I like the kind of connection, tie-in to ancient alien-type life form for these gods.
Yeah.
Because it further added on to how Darkseid and and everyone were able to trap them and catch them. They're not gods; they're per se super powerful aliens. So one super powerful alien can capture another super powerful alien. It's kind of how I saw it.
Oh, I saw them still as gods.
But gods, but not.
I didn't see them as. It wasn't like E to me. I mean, are you saying
No, I'm
like
not saying like E.T. I'm not saying like E.T. I'm saying more like just. They're not just like mythical beings like, God, like the God that, is out there. These are different types of gods. Maybe you could look at them as aliens. Maybe you could look at them as gods. Maybe you can look at it at some power type level that only the word God can accurately describe it. That's how I see the new gods.
And
they are.
To me, these gods, how I saw them completely as the same gods that we saw in the Perez run. But what we were seeing here is the fact that with their people, their main worship base, the people who honored them, the Amazons gone, there's a major shift in power right now. There was such that talk in Perez's run about the need for their followers to be, in many ways, they drew power off of their followers. And right now, the Amazons are gone. And they think the Amazons have abandoned them. Not knowing, it's really clear that they don't know the whole story of what has transpired here at this point. So this is really, where are our champions is one of the first things that they say. And I mean, ooh.
It's kind of actually reminiscent of the Star Trek, the old generation, when they ran into Apollo. Mm-hmm. And he didn't have his powers because, people stopped worshiping him.
Yes,
so, and
very good.
See, that's how I always liked seeing the Greek gods that way. And I also saw the new gods that way. So I'm like, this really...
So we aren't really that far off.
Yeah, we're not far off. It's,
I guess the word that was getting, just being honest with you, where my brain freeze was on that, was the word alien.
Right, I know.
Because it's kind of, but I see what you're getting at. The Hippolyta moments when she references the moon, it was foreboding. I was glad to see this moment where she had faith in their return, but this sets up an interesting point. The Amazons didn't abandon the gods. They were unable to honor them. It's important setup for the way that, the gods react to their own surprise on Olympus, because Hippolyta's thinking they're going to save her. They're wondering, where were our people when we needed them? So we've got a very different perspective on what's happening right now from both sides of the fence. Hippolyta's looking like and latching on and hoping, she's looking at this as a time of hope for her. And I what kind of disappointment is she being set up for?
I know. And, just thinking of the title, Rise of the Olympian. Mm-hmm. I'm like, wait a minute. We have genocide we're going to talk about in a minute or so, but there is another thing coming down the line. And we're seeing the buildup of that, whatever this other thing, whether the Olympian is, we're seeing the buildup now. So within this cool story, we have another story already being built. Right. And it's going to be just as powerful a moment, I'm thinking.
Well, I think the genocide piece, though, is an agent to lead to why the Olympian would be needed.
Right, yeah. But they're two separate entities, though. And that's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
We have two separate entities. The beginning, if you will, the meaty part of one story, and then the beginning of this next one. So these next couple issues, there are going to be some serious trials for Wonder Woman.
Well, a lot happened in this issue.
Oh God, yeah. But even laying down the line, this is a beginning of a cool, awesome roller coaster we're about to see Diana go through. I'm pumped about that.
They didn't waste a panel.
No.
There was not a panel wasted in this baby, because it cooked. I mean, so much going on, and they touched on everybody. Aaron Lopresti's art on Themyscira, it looks like it just belongs. It's something, I kept talking about the fantasy edge that I really liked with him. He has a way of balancing that out where he doesn't go too far with it. The way he draws her world, it just really grabs me. Hippolyta looks and carries herself like a warrior queen, and that's what I really like about this, because it does have that kind of,
it definitely has that draw in. But you touched on it earlier in the beginning in our intro. I got to say that was just the greatest way to just say you to a king and a god is to use his throne as a commode. Yeah. I was just like, that and just the
that's
way
not returning the light to the world.
And the way they did it, because it was like you saw Mercury just the defeat on his face. They defouled it, and I was just like. Oh.
You got to be glad you're a speedster at that point.
Yeah, because
Because you can get out of there. He caught a whiff, but he was able to,
Hey, you figure a dark side, leavings, it has to be pretty nasty.
What do you think? Did it have to be Darkseid that did it, or do you think it could have been Darkseid's minions?
It could have been the minions as well, but I don't know. I could see old DS, going, here, take this. When no one's looking, I can see him letting his guard down, having a little bit of fun with it, and then releasing the minions on it.
Well, if it's the Turpin Darkseid, he's not opposed to a hoagie or two. All kidding aside, though, I liked the intensity of this. They return to this world only to find Olympus trashed. Darkseid again taking away hope and the power structure of their gods. This would make sense. This is kind of like what we were talking about, Seven Soldiers, what he was doing with the new gods. He's doing the same thing with these gods, trying to take away any possible opposition. And it fits totally. So I really liked that this isn't a direct tie into Final Crisis. It doesn't need to be, but I like that she is echoing the current state of the DC universe in there without derailing her story. Because, it's a nice short reference. And we're talking about just a very short reference to this, and then we're moving on.
Yeah. And it's kind of like gives you a little timepiece. Where is this filling in?
I really appreciate that.
It keeps you in line.
Right. I feel bad for Hippolyta here, though, because she was counting on them as a sign of things were changing for the positive. Diana and her team was a really solid use of her human persona while not ignoring the Amazon warrior within. As she is examining each of her team members, she's noting their attributes in a combat situation. Important to know these elements of a squad to use its members to their best potential. And I love that because I'm like, oh, you know what? In and out of the costume, this is still the Amazon warrior.
We had a huge discussion about leader and leadership and all that. Right here is prime example of what Jim says is a leader.
A military leader.
Exactly.
Right.
You want to see Jim's, this is it right here.
Right.
She's got control, command of the unit.
I totally agree.
She's commanding with respect, but she's also, isn't just being the barking drill sergeant. She knows which members of her team needs the hard push, which one needs the comfort, the med tech who needs that praise. Hey, you're doing a really good job. Oh, thank you. The rookie who's nervous, like, hey, lock that down, you got it, and just the sharpshooter, the rebel who needs to have that challenge, so she's giving him that challenge. Oh,
I'll take back what I just said there too, because I don't want to make it sound like I'm only saying that about her. She is a tremendous leader across the board. Forget just military. She is a true leader in the way that she carries herself, the way that she lives her life, the way that she tries to better those around her with her message, with the way she talks to people, the way she's been as an ambassador of Themyscira. Diana's a very, very cool character who I've really grown to appreciate a lot over the years. And, this run especially for me is just, hitting on full thrusters or whatever. I loved what Greg Rucka did. I'm loving this. It's kind of like it's become a page turner again. Where this is what Diana needs to be. And the Perez run. There's been various runs. William Mesner Loebs did a wonderful run. There's been landmark runs on Wonder Woman, and this is a landmark run on Wonder Woman. She spoke the least to Tom and Etta, and I thought this was a nice nod to the fact that these are clearly trusted allies. What I have to say here, I already know, and that again is strong leadership at this point, because I already know what their capabilities are. I know what they're going to do. They know my expectations. It's just going to roll. Now, here was a cool moment. She goes to leave with her team, and Steele stops them. He wants Tom, and Diana smells a rat. He knows at this point. I do like that this is the man she is courting, and we see her with the dominant role at this point, where she's stepping up, protective, and it's, because it's her mate. This is where a strong supporting cast development is really important to me. There is emotion behind this scene. I was cheering for her to take Steele out back and show him what's what. I was rallying at this point behind her. I'm like, yeah, you go, girl.
And I also even saw, I agree everything you're saying with this is her mate and all that, right. But I also did still see the warrior in her, the soldier in her.
And I mean
he is a vital asset to this team. 10 seconds before they're departing on a major, encounter with a metahuman in a crowded public mall, a lot of civilian casualty, you don't take out the number one man on the team. So she was PO'd about that as well. I was eating this up. The fact that, she's like, I don't need my lasso to see that he's lying.
Right.
She could see there's something more on the surface.
I see the mate, though, in the warrior society.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I agree with you. I'm not, but I mean, there's definitely the mate part was a huge part of this. And agreeing with you that he's a pivotal member of the squad as well.
But how cool was it, though? As Diana's getting in her boss's face, as she's just about to cross the line, her friend steps up and gets her to back down. Once again, we see Etta, Candy, and
Tom.
And Tom as well, but
Yeah.
I saw it more as Etta actually being able to pull her back, rein her in. It was kind of like that best friend type thing who can help out.
If you take a look, though, at those panels, Tom was just as involved, and that's, again, two very trusted allies who can, basically any general who gets in the battle needs those people, those trusted advisors, to rein them in, if they get too emotionally drawn into the moment. That's why you put those advisors around you. And this is perfect at this point. I loved it. Do you think Steele is being influenced, or is this just fear spinning out of the war with the Amazons and Amazon's attack? What do you think is going on here? Because I see both possibilities. So
Dude, you're reading my mind. I was like, on one hand, I'm like, okay, yeah, we've seen the groundwork laid down that Steele didn't trust, Tom was on the list. Diana's on the list. Etta's on the list. But, he's looking for evidence. And once he gets evidence, then he's moving and he's pouncing. But there was just in the back of my mind, kind of like,
too.
My whatnot senses were tingling a little bit. I'm like, are we going to see another swerve out of this? Is there going to be something where Steele's being manipulated? Maybe a mind control type thing or whatnot? I'm not sure. There's definitely room for that, and there's a strong room for it. Or even as the story is being laid out, he's got very clear anti-Amazonian, paranoia, and it's very, founded in the way they've laid out the story.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, because it definitely spins out of a major
event. It could go either way. So we may have a nice school spin, or we may continue on with the Amazonian, the paranoia and whatnot. I don't know. This is one of those things. It's not even the main part of the story, and I'm going, ooh. There could be some cool stuff coming out of this.
I'm firmly in the middle there, too. I'm not leaning one way or another on that. I'm actually probably leaning more towards that it's spinning out of the Amazon. If anything, it's spinning out of the Amazon sentiment over what happened at that point. But there's a part of me that, like you.
It's that little bit in the back of your mind. There could be something more here.
How do you quickly build up a bad guy? Show us that even Dr. Frankenstein himself, Dr. Morrow, is afraid of this creation. It's a bad thing, Dr. Minerva. A very bad thing. Call it back. We have to call it back. You don't know how it feels just to look at it. Those lines, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
It's consistent with the Morrow I enjoyed so much in 52. He's a bad guy and crazy, yet there are moments when he's endearing in a creepy sort of way. I don't know if you get that vibe from him, too, when he's well written.
Oh yeah, it was weird because I was sitting there, I'm seeing him, his regret and his fear, and I was like, okay, yeah, he's kind of learning here, with 52 and the Horsemen, he kind of unleashed and then realized afterwards, maybe this wasn't a good idea. Once again, he unleashes just this massive, powerful thing that could possibly destroy the world, and he's starting to feel a little bit remorse about it, regret and fear and whatnot over
got
it.
An illness, he can't stop himself from creating these horrible things, but then but it's what's nice about him is that he's sorry for it later.
Now, who knows? Maybe third time will be the charm, and the next time he's presented with this, hey, why don't you create this massively powerful being that can destroy the world? He'll say, you know what? Not this time, guys. I've learned my lesson. It took 3 times.
Nah. This genocide was his idea, yet after seeing it, he realized it, and I mean, that's, Well, wait, I love that it would be more merciful just to wipe out millions of people.
Yeah. Well, what we see him do, yeah.
Oh, yeah, and I agree. And that was a nice build then to this point. Diana and her mother sensed the same storm. And we see it first at this marketplace. And that was the bit for me. I'm like, wow, mother and daughter, the connection, their connection with the world, their, Mother Earth, all that whole bit. That for me really just at this moment, I really liked that small little detail. Were the cars thrown around to make a perimeter?
Oh, yeah. And I absolutely love that. And this was what we talked earlier about Le Preciart. This was another panel just coming in. You have the shock and horror look on the faces of the team as they're flying in, but also you have the cars laid out in the circle. You have the little bodies, the little images of the figures trying to run from the mall to get to safety. Plus, you have little police force, rescue and emergency thing outside it trying to get in. I was just like, oh, this is just a lot of little details spread throughout some really cool panels here. I was like, oh, yes.
Yeah, the art, looked like the trapped people, that were... I mean, you could see visually, you saw this in the dialogue, too, that the people were trapped in as much as getting out, but it was in the art as well, which I really appreciated. Very large scale, what was presented here.
And the thing I really did like was the fact that Genocide did this. Block in, not only trap the people in, but trap the help from getting in. I thought that was just a cool moment because this truly is Diana's opposite. Diana was made out of a mother's love, out of mystic clay. We saw this was created by a madman out of hate and fear from just the soil, from just atrocities throughout the world. But this is still an intelligent creature. This is still a strategy, a warrior, just like Diana is. Naturally, you got to think about this. He wants to slaughter, he or she, I'm not even sure Genocide's sex yet.
I couldn't either. I started saying he's and
she's, yeah. But I keep calling him a he just because,
right. But when I was looking at some of the later art, I'm like, well, maybe. I don't know that we're supposed to know.
Yeah, I don't think we're supposed to. And it's, but I like that, he was able to, lay out this plan. He wants to destroy all these people. It wants to destroy all these people. Slaughter, enjoy, just enjoy their sorrow and their suffering. So naturally going to make sure help doesn't get in, and victims don't get out. I ate that up. That was just cool.
Now, to tell how I overthought this. President Obama, or President-elect Obama, has been reaching across party lines, been, reaching all over for advisors and people, for his cabinet. Now, at first I was thinking Genocide was evil, but what if Obama reached out to Genocide? I mean, forget corn, electricity, oil, water. Genocide's cars, run on blood for fuel. And they're stackable, which is great for a family like mine with a single-car garage. And, I mean, really, not only are you a great co-host of the show, Jim, but I'm actively subletting you out for drilling purposes. Think about it. While we record, I could have an IV in you and be refilling my car.
I shouldn't be laughing because that is sick, but
This is brilliant. It's why Lois works so well knowing Clark's secret. Diana brought someone with her who could cover for her when she needed to be Wonder Woman. Just solid planning. I loved this layer of Diana. That moment with Etta. I need a moment alone. Ooh!
Dude, that was a hoorah moment.
Yeah.
Definite hoorah moment, because you knew she was going to power up. And I'm thinking in my mind that, we're about to see a Wonder Woman ass whoop, and I'm like, yeah, this is going to be cool. And,
but
the way the story goes, whoa.
But instead of her just going off alone and doing that. See, that's where tiny details for me make the difference between a good issue that I enjoyed and a great issue that's making me gush. It's little tiny things like that I pick up and notice in a second read-through, a third read-through, where I'm just like, oh, that was really well handled.
Yeah.
That was something for me in this one. I just had smiles on my face throughout it. Now, do you think Genocide was upset that the Big Belly burgers were delivered outside the 30-minute guarantee in this reaction? Or was it the cancellation of Manhunter? I mean, this is one bitter whatever Genocide is. I mean, that poor girl.
I know, and not only did she just kill that innocent non-combatant, did it with such vim and vigor and just... we're totally overkill, Batman. That was a blunk, massive stomp down. And I was just like, wow. That was one of those just, whoa, kind of moments, just seeing this is pure evil incarnate. How many
no, it's not you. Genocide's like an evil Pat from Saturday Night Live. We don't know, because we're both trying to figure out he, she, it, what do we call it? It's Pat. Now, this I appreciated. I actually liked that Diana was too late to save the day and now has to avenge her. It was more realistic to me. It put me in a place that this might not be a battle that Diana could win. And, this death would anger Diana. But I like that because these heroes, there's too much going on in the universe. They can't be everywhere at once. They do so much, and we see them trying to deal with the fact they always want to do more. They always want to save that one more person. They always want to step up their game for that purpose. And it's these moments where we see some sometimes that they aren't able to save everybody, that it reminds us that it is just one person, and I like those reminders every so often. I mean, you want to believe Diana Wonder Woman can do these things that are so staggeringly above everybody else, and she's on a tier that's higher than every other hero, and I never lost that, and so I don't mean it that way. I like the moments, though, where we do see that even the best of the best can't save everybody.
Yeah, and how cool was it, though, when she sees genocide and just the formal declaration of war?
Yeah.
I cheered for this at so many levels. One, it's just that continuation of that Amazonian code we've been seeing throughout this book. They don't just fight, with vigor, they fight with honor. And two, it just kind of really accentuated that this was a serious throwdown. This wasn't a fight, this was war.
But it was also the sign, and this is something that I noticed here, and I might be digging for this. I noticed genocide was invoking emotion.
Definitely.
And it's a key here. You start to see the first glimpses of this, and I think genocide feeds off of it. Because we see moments later where Diana seems to lose power, lose the ability to walk, lose the ability to move and stuff like that. Like genocide is siphoning off of these strong emotions that, it's invoking at this point. And I was just, ooh.
Yeah.
It was really, really cool. Nemesis is busted in his relationship with Diana, and he's really grown on me. He had to have known this is why he was pulled aside, and as they try to take his gift from Diana, he takes this chance to escape. And it was a really solid action sequence there that I really enjoyed. We've talked with her when she's been on our show about her choreography, and those are bits where the art and I'm sure that she had something to do with the choreography of that. That whole sequence played out very, very well. It was very action. I'm a big action movie buff. I grew up, in the 80s watching, all from Stallone to Schwarzenegger to Van Damme to all that stuff. I love those kind of movies. And to see that kind of movie film-like presentation in my comics, it's what I want.
Yeah, and just, how funny was it, though, thinking that these yahoos were actually going to be able to take a man from Cleveland. Come on.
Oh, yeah.
Sir
Thomas of Cleveland.
Sir Thomas of Cleveland.
Our hero.
You think, a couple guys, even if he's unarmed without any of his equipment, come on. We grow him tough here. We know how to throw down. We know what we got to do. Especially, you're going to try to take a gift from Wonder Woman? Please, not going to happen.
Now, when genocide teleports in, a horrible truth is revealed. The champion of the gods is fighting a god. Now she's faced some terrible gods in her time, but this one is so much worse. She pulls off her tiara and uses it like a knife. This again showed the desperation of the situation. I think Diana knew she was outgunned here, but went on fighting like a warrior and a champion of honor, and I really liked that too about her. It was an inspirational moment. It's one of the reasons why when you see these moments sometimes with somebody of her caliber, you get to see that she knows here, but yet she won't quit. Do you think Tom knew that she was in trouble by instinct, or did he just want to be there so he didn't let Prince down in her mission? Because he doesn't know.
Yeah, that they are. And I don't know. Every time I saw him, he's like, Diane, I'm coming, and he's gunning it.
It was going to be Diana Prince,
obviously.
Right. And I do think that.
My first read-through, I did think that it was Diana Prince, that he was thinking.
And I think that too.
But then later on, I started looking, I'm like, man, that's more than just a loyalty to the mission. There's something more there. And I'm thinking.
And he's shown loyalty to his partner, though, because a lot of the trouble that he's getting in right now had to do with when he ran in with the guerrillas, he was actually protecting Diana Prince there. So he has that about him. So but I wonder if there wasn't something, and it's funny, it's where I connected with this. I wonder if there wasn't something inside him that was driving him that maybe he didn't even know. And that's where it's like, I'm like taking this to such a cool level where I'm trying to read into emotions of a person who's really this flat character on a page, but he's three-dimensional to me.
Yeah. And the one thing that was kind of popping in my head is I'm wondering if down the road we're going to get one of those story arcs where he starts to fall for Diana Prince, but he's also in love with Wonder Woman, and he's like, I'm torn here. I don't know, kind of that, where he's starting to fall for both. He's in love with one, and then he's starting to have feelings for the other, and then he starts feeling guilty, but it's really the same person. I'm wondering if we're going to see that type of stuff.
Lovers feeling like a fool. I don't know. I mean,
I don't know if we're going to see that, but
Wonder Woman, man. I don't. Yeah,
I know that, and I think that would be part of it. You're like, you got this. You have Wonder Woman, but then you have Diana Prince, who's this really cool person.
But maybe there's elements about Diana Prince that
right.
Yeah, I don't know.
I wonder if we're going to see a story.
I don't know if we would go there. Yeah, that's interesting. No home for anyone, only genocide. Home is a place of safety and comfort. Genocide is looking to break down that concept. I took it. Violating almost the concept of home.
Yeah.
Is that how you were reading that?
Yeah, I was kind of just the. It's not only just no home, no survival, no escape, no safety, no hope,
right?
If you will. It was. The minimal speaking by Genocide just add to it. With Doomsday, when he was first on the scene, how many issues did it go before he even said a word? He never really has even spoken, I don't think, and it kind of works for him as a monster. Genocide, the fact that he is able to speak, the fact that we are getting thought and strategy and planning from, makes him, for me, that much more dangerous and that much more scary.
And Genocide is the ultimate feeling of, I mean, it's such a horrible concept. It is really the taking away of concept of safety and home and of protection, because you're talking about the wiping out of entire races, of entire existence, and all that. So I mean, it's just wow.
If you look at Diana as inspiring people to do great things, I look at Genocide as despair, as shame, as
she said shame.
Yeah.
When that helicopter came flying in, she said that when they were talking about all of her, basically all of her people in her squad, were talking about their commentary on she said it feels like shame.
Yeah, it's just that is genocide.
Diana's comments about it preying on her psychologically helps a bit too in this whole thing. Now, do you think these gods are reborn, or they just lost their memory in their time away? Is it an after effect of those who worship them being taken out of the game? What do you think's going on with them there? Because it clearly felt like they weren't quite yet themselves, or were in some way, renewed or something. I don't know.
I say weakness through lack of worship. Their power levels are dropping, and they're dropping fast. Mm-hmm. They have nothing. They have no energy coming in. They need the Hulk out. And they need hear from their little Hulkamaniacs. And start getting jazzed up, which I think is what we're going to see with the Olympian. So they're
building a new power structure,
right? There's going to be, I don't know where they're going to pull the power from or how they're going to pull it, but they got to pull something from somewhere. So
Cleveland.
Hey, let's do it, man.
Right. Athena is giving up her immortality due to her champion giving up on her, the new god she's honoring too, right? Would you read that that's maybe part of this issue as well? That Diana's kind of had to go her own way because of that. Genocide honors the 100th guest of Nancy's place with a good head crushing.
Oh my God, dude! That was another moment.
After getting Diana to kneel, the hero, you see her. I'm willing to humiliate myself. I'm willing to bow down to this person as a way of keeping this person alive. And that's why she was doing this. She was doing this thing. And again, the mind games. I like this. Genocide had her kneel for the purpose of once again breaking her down mentally.
Yeah, I'm not having you kneel to surrender. I'm having you kneel so you got a better view of this, Crunch.
Right.
Oh, that was just wow.
And showing you that nothing you're going to do, and really to build up but see, that was again to build up the anger and the hatred.
And you can see right from that sequence, Genocide just started pulling, Diana's anger. Diana's like, I'm going to kill you. She's like, no, only Genocide kills.
Right.
I was like, oh.
Well, you all know about Diana's heart. Sure, she's a warrior, but we've also seen her compassion. To see that woman murdered, usually a hostage is used for escape purposes. Genocide rubbed it in her face. Of course that would make her hate this beast. Like I said, Genocide, I felt like Genocide was feeding off of her because draining it. Her legs don't work. Why is she weakening? Genocide builds and feeds off those emotions. Diana's a strong and beautiful woman, but to see her face scratched up, that added to the insult, it was like a desecration.
Yeah, it's kind of like, they give her the smack across the face. Didn't do much damage, but it just put you in your place. Like, there, I can do whatever I wanted. And we talked about artwork. I got to tell you, the lettering, as she's slowly going down, the lettering was shrinking in size, getting a little bit faded. Or I was like, oh, nice. Everybody, that was just a
great
cool
team.
team,
Great team.
jiving wonderfully together. Hoorah.
Yeah. I like the attention to detail here that Tom would be looking for Agent Prince. He had no idea Wonder Woman would be there, so, he was really looking for her. And it's funny how Trinity, the weekly series kind of worked here, too. We see what Tom would have been like without his relationship with Wonder Woman. Here we see his loyalty to his partner and how he's really becoming a better man. His instinct was to be here for her, was to, and we've seen this more than once with him being the friend, being the confidant, being the partner, being that man. I like that about him. He shows up and finds the woman that he loves, beat, twisted, broken, her lasso taken, a gift from the gods, and one of her major symbols, a trophy of the victory, but also a way to further raise the emotions of the other opponents. And the way she was twisted in that, it was like, oh my.
She's bound with steel bars, kind of impaled. She was punch drunk, which was the thing I really digged. She took a beating. This wasn't just a defeat in battle. This was a beatdown that just rocks your core of your being. Now, seeing how is Diana going to recover? How is Diana Prince going to recover? Because she now has to kick back to human mode, or they have to come up with an explanation as to where she is. I was just like, whoa, this is a wow moment.
This was brilliantly played, too, because we saw a lot out of genocide in this. We saw a lot out of genocide against Diana in this. We saw genocide scratch her face, but we did not see on camera in this issue. We might see it next issue in flashbacks. I don't know. But what I liked about it, they ended us with this horrifying image, and, they left us to think, how did she get like that? I guarantee you what's running through our heads right now is the horrible things genocide had done to her.
What else did he do to her?
Right.
Yeah.
And how they got to get the lasso and all that. It's like, woo. This was a trophy of victory. Also a way to further create those emotions, like I was saying. That trophy, to take that lasso. Ooh. It's an iconic symbol. Like taking Superman's cape, and taking Superman's symbol off his chest. Those are, it's just oof. What did you think of genocide?
When I first saw him, definitely not what I was thinking.
You were really thinking male, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm definitely throughout this whole thing. Throughout this whole thing, I was really thinking male. There was a couple of them, I'm like, I wonder if a female. I'm like, and it was, I'm thinking male, and he wasn't what I thought he was going to be. But I was so glad that he wasn't like a bizarro version or an evil version of Wonder Woman.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm glad he wasn't humanoid. He looked something else. He looked like just this beast of nightmare and hellish proportions. So I liked the fact that he didn't look human.
Well, and you want that distinction too, especially with where the Olympian's going. Obviously, this is the rise of the Olympian. We're going to see the Olympian, who's going to be like the male version of Wonder Woman, and to see how we get to that at this point. That's a big. I don't want to see something else that's in that same category. I want to see something very, very vastly different. It's interesting. The building blocks are set here, and I'm assuming the gods will create the Olympians based on the fact they feel abandoned. Will we see the return of the Amazons? What will that look like? Because I'm wondering, will we see the female Amazons come back? And what is the fate of Athena? That's a biggie for me. I want to know what Athena's deal is in all this. So this was a really, really cool story.
To the Batmobile. Let's go. Atomic batteries to power. Turbines to speed. You're ready to move up.
I want to really quickly share. We got an email from Mr. Scarface from the forums, and he was kind enough to. He was at the WizardWorld Texas show, and poor guy, he had problems with his email getting it to us, so he sent us like 3 emails from it, and we didn't get it in time for our last recording, so we really wanted to talk about it here. He went to the DC Nation panel, and the first DC Nation panel was held on the Friday night, and the panel had senior story editor Ian Sattler, sales vice president Bob Wayne, Teen Titans editor Elizabeth Gerlin, Sean McKeever, Ethan Van Sciver, and Billy Tucci. And there was some news that Joseph Michael Straczynski was going to be doing Brave and the Bold, and one other mystery project. And upon being asked about the name of some of the Brave and Bold combos, they only threw out Batman and the Shield. So there's some of those characters that they've acquired now that they're going to start using and putting into the DC universe. How do you feel about that? With the fact that Brave and the Bold's going from being DC Universe team-ups to introducing new characters to the DC Universe. Are you excited for that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I like that. It's, it's part of the dynamics of a team up. If it's an unknown entity coming in and just seeing how they deal with Batman, learning who the person is, it's part of the coolness that I like about Brave and the Bold. Now, with Brave and the Bold, I do prefer multiple issue overall story arcs with different teams making up the story arc. Like we're seeing, now with Green Lantern, Phantom Stranger, we're going to have a Green Lantern, Green Arrow, Green Lantern, Phantom Stranger back in again. I like that type of style where it's a large story
Instead
arc.
of single issue stories?
Right.
Okay.
Just because it'll build more of the character, and you get into it. Especially if this is a brand new character, I do want a couple issues so I can really sink my teeth into who they are.
Okay, that'd be interesting. I don't know, and I don't know what the format of this is going to be, so it's interesting to see. According to Ian Sattler, Legion of Three Worlds will be an important book with a huge impact on the DC Universe over the next 3 years. So that's going to be an interesting little twist as well, especially with, we've seen, and we'll have to talk about it, the JSA
tie-ins and connections
have tied into that as well, and I wonder if that on some level will tie back into Superman then with the announcement of the new Adventure Comics story.
Could be.
Will that tie back into that on some level? I don't know. Ethan Van Sciver was asked if there are any other heroes he would like to revamp Rebirth style with Jeff Johns. Aquaman was his response.
And that would be cool.
Yeah, that's not necessarily an announcement of that, but I would love that. I love, there's been some great runs of Aquaman. Peter David's run comes to mind immediately. Rick Veitch did a very cool run. I did like the Sword of Atlantis one when they were doing it. I think that's part of the problem, though. They're saying that there's different versions of this character, and they're trying to figure out what the definitive version is that they can do Rebirth style, and I don't know. And how to keep him relevant and cool. So Sattler asked the crowd for other villains that they need to open their novel treatment to, like the Joker hardcover, and Bizarro was named. He hinted that this might be a possibility, so a Bizarro one would be cool. I liked the Bizarro's World ones. There was 2 different hardcovers like that, and I have them both. And but they were more like lighthearted. They were fun. They were great. Did you get those? Did you happen to read any of those?
No, I don't think I have those.
Okay, I'll have to let you borrow them. They're fun. I mean, they're great reads, and they were more anthology style, where they were done by different creators and things like that. It was fun. In response to the question about JLA membership, Sattler threw out the possibility of a new group of heroes in the JLA.
Yeah, there have been some talks about like a second JLA team,
well,
like
that's going to be
a JLA
Robinson's
strike
book.
Force and type of stuff. And so I'm wondering if that's what he's talking about with that is what he means by the new band of heroes, or if the actual JLA title we're going to get kind of like the... that JLA team that was Booster Gold, Beetle. It was the not what's.
Well, they still had Batman. They still had Martian Manhunter and stuff like that during that as well. During that era, they did eventually, though. Those characters weren't as those characters then stepped out of the book, and they had but they were established at that point. It's interesting with there being 2 teams. It opens up a lot of possibilities. So I'd be curious to see what happens with them. And then the Milestone book. I mean, the Milestone characters coming in and being a part of it. It'll be interesting to see what character. I think there's one character that's supposed to stick, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong on that. And then Newsarama had a shot of Static that I got to see Static for the first time in the DC Universe. He looked very cool. Johnny DC is going to be putting out a Brave and the Bold series, and I'm excited about that. I've already pre-ordered that. Secret Six is going to be scarier and more violent in the coming issues.
Yay!
Yeah, there you go. Big things are ahead for Animal Man, a new series called Last Days of Animal Man.
You know what? That's a character I would like to see some revamping. I would like to see a little bit of with him. We got some cool stuff with him in 52. Then
Do you think he needs to be revamped?
I don't know.
Or that maybe
I don't know. Revamped, just maybe
series.
used.
Yeah.
Or in part of a team. Bring him in with, if not the JLA, maybe this JLA Strike Force, or maybe another team. I'm not sure. Something, because he was a cool character. He had some interesting quirks to him. I like seeing him, teamed up with the space teams and being used that way. But I don't know. I want to see more of him.
When asked about the future of the All-Star titles, Sattler said that they were coming, but he couldn't name who they would star. So, do you have characters? Who would you like to see the All-Star treatment for? I'm excited for the Wonder Woman one, and they said that that's been worked on. They've had pages for it. But the Batgirl one, I don't know that we're ever going to see that now. That Jeff Johns, J.G. Jones Batgirl series, All-Star Batgirl, I would have loved that. Is there a character who you'd like to see?
Flash.
All-Star Flash?
All-Star Flash. Yeah.
What Flash would you like to see it be?
Well, and it's funny because I always say how Bart is my Flash. I would rather see All-Star Barry Allen.
Wow.
And just like I'd also like to see All-Star Ray Palmer Adam.
Ooh.
Those are two characters.
Some of the classics.
Yeah, I'd like to see them go classic. And
then if we're throwing out that, I want All-Star Hawkman.
Yeah, that's another. Yeah, I'd go for that as well.
Creative team-wise, do you have any favorites that you'd like to see? I guess we can throw out anybody, dream teams.
Yeah. Yes. It's wow. Yeah.
There's a lot of people I would like to see do that.
And there are people who are like so overtaxed right now. I don't know if to say yes, throw them on just because they're already dealing with a dozen titles.
Well, I'll say it right now: Gail Simone, All-Star Hawkman.
Yeah.
I'll say Gail Simone, All-Star anything.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way it is. But I would love to see, because I liked so much what she did with Kendra.
Yeah.
I'd like to see All-Star Hawk. Well, All-Star Hawk Girl, that would probably be Shaira.
Yeah.
And I would like to see that too. So give me that. I don't know. Besides that, though, I like when you said All-Star Adam. You know what? I would like. I'll say this: forgetting me picking a single character, I would like to see more creators who are very passionate about characters be given the opportunity to go hog wild on characters that they really want to do something with. I think look what Grant Morrison did with All-Star Superman. That type of thing when they're passionate. Look at the artwork we're getting and the story. And I got to say it again: the story I'm enjoying in All-Star Batman. I have issues, but I like the book. So I would like to see more of this style where creators are allowed to go kind of hog wild and do their thing with these concepts and have a good time. So, like you said, I think the problem is a lot of the creators are just right now bogged down with other projects that they're doing. But I say if somebody's got a good project and they want to really go hog wild with the character, that's the kind of stuff I want to see. It's a good chance to let them just go hog, because these are mini-series, so you can really, and you can do them any length.
Right.
Who says that they have to be a certain length? Because my understanding is, look, Superman's done, so we don't even have that book anymore, and Batman, I'm assuming, is finite too. They can just relaunch with the new creators whenever. So who cares? Whatever characters. I'd like to see some different characters. The Wonder Woman one I'm excited for. That's interesting. I'm going to switch to this DC Crisis and Beyond panel, which featured Ian Sattler, Bob Wayne, Shane Davis, Matt Sturgis, Elizabeth Gerlin again, Ethan Van Sciver, Rags Morales, and Billy Tucci. They announced a new Final Crisis Aftermath book, Run, written by Matthew Sturgis, with art by Freddie Williams, with a pivotal supervillain character from Final Crisis transforming into the most powerful villain ever. Sattler said that there will be 3 water cooler moments in every issue that will totally kick ass. So,
that's...
So, a pivotal supervillain character from Final Crisis transforming into the most powerful villain ever. Wonder who that'll be.
I'm thinking one of the Flash rogues.
Yeah.
Just because of the knit title Run, I'm thinking it's got to do something with Flash, so it's got to be a Flash rogue. Now, I don't know which one, though.
Zoom?
Well, we saw what happened to Zoom.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It could be. Maybe he figured, maybe he gets his way back. I don't know.
But Run, that would imply something speedster-wise. Inertia is kind of a done deal. I don't know. I don't think it would be the actual rogues, per se. And maybe we're thinking the wrong lines of things. I don't know. Got me curious. There'd be a new series coming out called Faces of Evil, which we already talked about, the Prometheus issues, but there's also going to be Deathstroke, Solomon Grundy, Cobra, Parasite, and Brother Blood. So Shazam's going to be coming back to the JSA in January.
Glad to see that.
Yeah.
I want to see, let's start developing, get back to the Marvel family.
Well, I'm assuming that's Billy.
I think. Because they said...
Shazam.
Right, and he's the wizard Shazam.
Right.
So that's what I think is coming. It's not going to be Captain Marvel, but it's still, I think we need to start bringing them back.
I think Freddy's supposed to be appearing in the new Justice League book.
Oh, okay.
So, and I really liked how Jeff Johns handled Billy. So I'm hoping it's Billy.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. What's interesting is if we could finally see Nightwing in the JLA, Sattler answered there would have to be a Nightwing.
Which adds to our discussion about Red Robin and, Nightwing and Flamebird, so...
Batman missing on the cover of the new Outsiders series. Owlman there instead. Who do you think Owlman is?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't think they would pull the negative verse Owlman in.
No, I don't think so either.
But
And
maybe it's
I don't think it
somebody
could be-
in the Owlman costume or another version of Owlman or something. I don't know. Or
Judging from Batman and the Outsiders right now, part of me wants to leap to the conclusion it's Alfred because of his relationship with Batgirl and what was going on there, but I think I might be making a leap there. And would they do that with Alfred? Is he physically...
See, Alfred's a tough old dude, but I don't think he's physically up for it.
No.
Now,
Depending on what that Owlman suit's like, though.
Yeah, it could be a tech suit, so who knows? Or the other name that always pops in my head is always Jason Todd, but I don't think they would do that.
I don't want to see him become Owlman.
No, me neither. I like him as, Jason Todd Red Hood. So
Right. They had a Joker hardcover panel, and they cleared up the idea that the comic was tied to the movie. It's not. The origins of this book were back in 2006 and completely finished with the book last March, so it was the art and scripts were turned in before the first images of Heath Ledger's Joker, so it was something that was done beforehand. And we heard this in Chicago too. Right. That was mentioned by Azzarello at Chicago when we were there. So it's interesting. When asked about the redesigns of the characters in the books, he said, should the Riddler have a cane because he is walking with a gimp leg? Yes. Why else would he carry a cane? He added that he took Croc back to what the character started out as a big man with a skin condition. Batman villains work best when you can be them. It's kind of his attitude.
I agree with that statement. I like seeing Croc like that. I like the tricked out version of Riddler. He wasn't so cheesy. He was a character that I could see him in Gotham City.
Does it bother you when we see different it doesn't bother me at all. I thought this version of Croc was really cool.
Yeah.
Does it bother you when we see those inconsistencies?
No, because
and this to me, it's a standalone hardcover, so that gives a lot of leeway.
Yeah, if this was in the Batman title or the Detective Comics, that would throw me off because why the sudden change? But this is, and same thing in a miniseries, a limited series. I wouldn't have as big an issue because it's not per se in continuity.
Abner, when he was calling the Penguin that, Azzarello said it was a joke, kind of busting his balls a bit. Perhaps it didn't translate, and there was a consideration of changing it on the reprint. But the artist added that he looked like an Abner to me.
Yeah.
The artist is currently writing and drawing a new graphic novel that would involve a lot of the DC Universe characters, but mostly Batman. But then he was cut short by Bob Wayne for giving away too much info. So obviously it's something they're not ready to release. Let me ask you a question. When certain things are mentioned at panels, to a certain extent, do you think that I think there's certain things that are genuine slip-ups, but I think there are other things that are definitely played as slip-ups that were supposed to be slip-ups.
I think
there's a mixture.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a reaction by some people that whether it was an actual true slip-up or not.
Mm-hmm.
Some are. There have been some legitimate slip-ups, and but there have been some where I think they wanted to tease it, and this was their way of teasing it. This is their way of getting it out there and make it interesting because people are going to be more likely to talk about, oh, did you hear what Dan DiDio said at the DC Nation? He slipped up. This is all cool, and whether it's a legitimate slip-up or not.
Well, there's somewhere I clearly can tell from the reaction of the creative team involved in the project that they didn't want that out there yet, but it's kind of an interesting balance because I understand from a sales standpoint you want to throw out some teasers that are meaty to get people chatting because the more people chat about it, the more buzz the project generates and the more chances that people are going to try it. But then I also understand the creative prospect where you want people to find these things as they unfold from the pages. So it is interesting because, I like doing a spoiler podcast, but one of the reasons why we put a warning at the beginning of this podcast is we don't want to ruin anything for anybody that is actually reading it that does not want it spoiled. So we're not trying to ruin that experience because I like reading it on the pages myself. We're more of a celebration of it after people have read it or for people that aren't picking up the book that are curious about hey, did I miss something here? And that are considering picking up the trade or considering jumping on the title after they hear from us. Hopefully we get people, and I know we get people like that. They'll say, oh, geez, you guys, you sucked me in and all that. But I think that's part of what we do here. I can understand, though, from the creative standpoint of them saying, I would, at a panel, I don't know that I want people to know about this yet when the book hasn't even been released.
There's some stuff you gotta keep a tight lip on and you gotta watch it. But I think there's a lot of teasing going on, and I think that's.
I think so too. It's to generate buzz and things like that. So I think,
and it works.
But I think there's a mixture too of slip-ups as well. So I think it's interesting to go to those panels and kind of try to figure out what's what. I'm excited about that for New York because that'll be kind of a fun thing we get to do there, and we get to do that in the show. So anyway, I want to thank Mr. Scarface from the forums again for getting that to us, because it's always nice to hear from other conventions. Anytime if you go to a convention, you hear news and things, you want to shove them our way, especially with your thoughts like he did. He threw some of his thoughts in there on what that was like from his perspective. Please feel free to do that, because we like getting those reactions direct from cons. And if you ever want to come on the show to chat about a con or something like that, just shoot me an email. You know, that kind of stuff is fun to always chat about. So thanks so much for doing that.
You filthy criminals.
I want to do a Speeding Bullets segment here, and there's a whole bunch of stuff I want to chat about. Mart on the forum asked a really good question. He asked, why do I put segments and things sometimes at the end of the show? It really has to do with chronologically where we record them. A lot of times you and I, will be recording real late, and we'll complete the episode, and then I'll go back and say, well, Jim, I'd like to get to some of the listener voicemails, and, you're always a trooper and a half, and that you stay for them, because I want to get our reactions to them just as well, because when people call in, they usually call in for the purpose of starting a discussion topic with us. So that's part of the reason. A lot of times I'll put the show in such a way that it's easy to edit together the way that it was, but we still want to get them on the episode with our reactions. And I started the blooper reel a long time ago, where it used to be I'd take out all of our flubs and stuff and throw them at the end. And that turned into, then there was sometimes extra segments that maybe didn't fit the show proper, and I put them down there. Then I started taking things from conventions and putting them there. And then there were times where, for whatever reason, I had extra segments or extra content, or somebody would send in an audio comment and we record a reaction to it after the fact. So I started putting that down there. It's kind of being honest, it's kind of just the weird way we do things.
Yeah.
And that's what I guess I kind of like now that after hearing our theme song for so long on episodes where I used to just do our theme song at the end, I like kind of throwing stuff on there now too. It's kind of like the bonus tracks of the episode, because I'm a big fan of that. Like in music, I'll buy an album on iTunes and I'll pre-order it sometimes to get the bonus tracks. So it's the same kind of. It just proves that this collector's mentality of mine, is all-encompassing.
You want the multiple covers.
I do the same thing like when I buy Blu-ray discs or something like, I'll get the 3-disc special version for all the extra features that I'm only going to watch once, but it's just crazy. I want to talk about Superman 682, if we could. I love that Ma can still scold Clark, and I love that she finds strength in being a mother in spite of her loss.
Yeah.
That really, I ate that up. Bizarro at the gravesite. The sense of foreboding's really high here. I like that Crypto is there, because not only with his conversation with Jimmy, but perhaps and it's kind of unspoken by Clark, but he mentions other things too. The uneasiness with the things happening in Kandor. Like there's that part of him that already knows that things are not, and then, he knows there's like a military thing going on as well. As things start to turn in this issue, I have to wonder, will Superman start to feel responsible? Or will people feel he's responsible for bringing Kandor here? Where is this going to go on that end? Or is it going to be somewhere in the middle where it's a little bit of both?
I see some sentiment turning against Superman for bringing in the Kryptonians. I see him feeling guilty about bringing them back, about enlarging the city, and just he's going to start taking responsibility and saying, because if you think about it, when he had his run-in with the other heroes, when they first came out on the scene, he's like, don't worry, I have this covered. I give you my word.
Right.
And that's what backed everyone off, saying, we got the word of Superman. So now Clark's got to live up to that word. And I was just like, oh, this is getting good now.
Mm-hmm. Agent Liberty is starting to investigate the appearance of Doomsday. I'm starting to feel more now that maybe Agent Liberty isn't, I thought maybe there might be some twist with Agent Liberty. I think Mart was right on the forum.
Yeah.
He said Agent Liberty is, this character from the miniseries, and Johns and Robinson are really pulling from this, this character from the past. As Kara's father talks to her, I found this conversation the most telling, and it shows she is very much her own person and has had this growth. And I liked it a great deal. He didn't want Kal there because he's too much of Earth. He's too much of that, background to him. But when he assumes she is Kryptonian above all else, she says that she is his daughter above all else. And it's interesting that she felt the need to make that distinction. It wasn't all-encompassing. It's like, I'm your daughter, And it's kind of her way of saying, hold on a second before you say that. And I'm loving her at this moment. I really, as we get to know her more and more, she's really grown into a very likable character who, I like the distinction between her and Clark, but I also like that we're seeing more of a hero from her.
Yeah, and I took that sequence as more of an emotional response as opposed to the scientific Kryptonian, this is what we must do, because they're not, the other Kryptonians, they're looking at Earth as lesser beings. Do we get upset if we step on an ant on the sidewalk? No. That's how they're looking at Earth. Well,
right.
Kara doesn't look at Earth like that,
no.
But she is loyal to her family, to her father, which is a very human Earthling quality, right. Not a Kryptonian quality, which for me, I was like, ooh, that's going to be cool.
But she made it a point to say that she was his daughter. There was that distinction, which means that, she's making the line that, yes, I am your daughter, but, that means that there is a part of her that questions things. And I like that aspect about it. I think we do see it much later, too, further emphasized. I was waiting for this. The Kryptonians are unleashed on targets that are Clark's major rogues. And the big problem is that they don't have the respect for the human authorities. The real problem is that Kandor does not seem to have any sort of legal system. And we saw that in earlier issues here. It works when you're in a bottle, but when you're out and about and you have a whole world outside you of other beings from a completely different race and caste system, well, they're willing to kill any resistance, police included, to get Parasite. They're accomplishing their goal at this point, and you're right. They do feel like these people get out of my way, and they killed a police force.
Yeah, collateral damage, acceptable losses for the greater good.
Mm-hmm.
And
they don't even look at it that way, though. I liked your comment about ants before. I don't think if you asked them, they wouldn't have seen the significance of what they did.
And they didn't when Clark calls them on it.
Right. Now, I think Kara's father is sincere in that he is looking out for Clark, but I also think the people of Kandor are out to eliminate any threats that could hurt them. Here's the problem. What will they do then? The threats are gone. Are they going to be content to stay put? Will they make further changes? Where do we go from here? And the people of Earth are going to be thinking that.
Yeah,
this is the opening salvo.
I so see them turning on Clark very quickly. Mm-hmm. And I also see we're going to have a fight within that household because
I think so too.
The mother had no issue. She had no issue with what they did, and even was willing to keep it from the husband just because knew kind of how he would react. So I was like, wow, this is a definite telling statement going on, and I see it as a definite future prediction on what we're going to get. My personal gut tells me this all ends when Kara's father ends it. And I see him shrinking Kandor back down. I see him getting his hand on the Brainiac technology, figuring out how it works, and him shrinking the city back down.
Do you see her being the guardian of it, perhaps?
Yeah, because, I don't know if he'll survive the shrink down, if something bad will happen to him, but definitely she's going to be the guardian of the bottled city.
Well, in the mythos, too, in many, I don't know how vast or encompassing this is, a lot of the original Kandor stories, the concept was that they chose to stay in that bottle and to have an artificial red sun in that bottle to live a Kryptonian life, and just kind of, they chose to do that. So there was interesting storytelling there that was something that happened. Got to talk about Jim Harper. They consider him an outdated concept until things go to hell. And then they want to use him as a soldier to help fight against the Kryptonians. Is that what you're reading there?
Oh, definitely.
Oh, now we found a use for you, pal.
Hey, we need you to come back.
We're recruiting, You're just in time for the draft. They took down a member of the JLA. How will this affect Superman's relationship with the JLA? Or will it, cause him to maybe step up with them to do something? I don't know. I liked the Atlas bit. Atlas considering a secret identity as the wave of villains are taken. Yeah, I would too. Dude, if they were throwing people in the Phantom Zone and I thought I was a target, I'm shaving my head, painting myself green, and saying I'm the Martian Manhunter returned from the dead. Sorry, folks, I lost my power, but it sure is dandy to see all of you. Then I'm telling everyone, you're Dr. Norge, and getting out of Dodge.
What the heck?
There he is, right over there, that guy.
I'm sitting here nodding, agreeing with you. Yeah, that's a good idea. And you, what? Here's the bus. Hey, thanks, Bill.
It's my generic Martian disappearing act. Although it would be cool to meet Mon-El, do you think he's as nice in person as he is in the comics? Or do you think he's stuck up and bitter over the short amount of screen time he gets due to his typecasting as a Daxamite stuck in the Phantom Zone? That poor dude.
I know.
Toyman, Bizarro, and more were taken, and this infuriates Clark because of the human casualties. And again, like you said, Allura knew not every Kryptonian's on board with the Superman program. I liked Kara being in tears. Seeing that coming down her face, I'm pointing in my eyes like anybody can see this, but I mean, that was a moment where we got to see she is torn up over this because she had this wonderful reunion with her family. Now she's realizing Mom is something that she doesn't, I'm guessing she doesn't respect Mom right now with what she's doing. Mom
definitely,
doesn't get it.
This is, yeah.
I do feel bad for Mon-El. Be like, yeah, great, Clark. You found a way to get so many thousand Kryptonians out of the bottle, but you can't cure lead poisoning? And now I'm in here with these guys. It was a cool ending, though, and I'm liking the frequency of this with the triangle system. It is something where I think, you can put different focuses in place with this kind of storytelling, and I'm enjoying it at the moment. I really, really am. I want to talk about Teen Titans number 65. Wonder Girl's story came to this exciting close here.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to see not only a resolution to her powers, but her growth in moving on post-Connor's death. She's ready for a new status quo. She is embracing life as a Titan living in the tower. What did you think of her new costume, Jim?
Dude, that was a sweet-looking costume, man. It's, connection and tie into the past, but it does move it a little bit forward, with the red and the bright gold on there. I was eating that up. That's a nice look for her. It's a maturing of her from, Wonder Girl, if you will.
Her power now comes within and is not perverted by Ares, too, which is kind of an interesting little twist. But I do like now that, it didn't obviously take away from her current costume. It's kind of like the twist that they did with Robin's costume. When they changed Tim's slightly, it's still clearly Tim Drake's costume, but with nice little tweaks that still give you a connection to the old. Same thing here, and that really worked for me as well. What do you think of Bombshell in the book and on the team and just being a part of this whole thing?
That is definitely a cool thing for me. I was really digging her. The 63, 64, when we see her get recruited back into the Titans, it wasn't a quick, okay, you're on the team, yeah, you're welcome, good job, hoorah type moment. This was multiple battles with her. We see some great Titan teamwork when they took her down initially, and then but it doesn't completely take her down because she is a powerhouse. So it's definitely a nice addition to the team. I'm kind of curious to see how she and Rose are going to get along, or if we're going to even see Rose come back to the Teen Titans, because they're both two very dominant, angry females who act like they don't want to be there.
And I so clearly want Rose back because of that, because the two of them together, I think, are just going to
butt heads and go up against each other, and especially I see a definite reconcilement between Cassie and Rose. With the trials Wonder Girl went through. She's grown, matured, gotten some internal strength. Rose is going to have that through what's going on with the Terror Titan stuff. So I see a better friendship between the two of them, which should make things
her in more of a solid
Yeah.
leadership role.
Yeah.
One of the things I like about is Blue Beetle being in the book. Teamwork's great now. We're seeing more and more teamwork developing as the issues continue, and I like to see that gradual growth. He analyzes things with his scarab. He shows himself as a big gun player, but one of the things I like about him, he adds humor value without losing the sense, though, that he's a power hitter.
Yeah.
So it's taken to a certain extent without losing the sense that, hey, this guy, you want him on your team. But I do like that because it adds kind of a fun to the book, and because you've got some very dark people on the team, in the sense that have gone through their share of issues. But characters like him, characters like Eddie, they keep it light, they keep it, they add balance to this book. It's a fun title.
Yeah, the banter back and forth between those two are some of the funniest moments. When they were in the JSA getting, a couple issues ago, getting Wonder Girl checked out, and you see Eddie kind of like, doing the best he can, to hit on Stargirl and Cyclone and just getting shot down left and right, and then Beetle just there to, add in a little joke. Hey, I just noticed, you and Stargirl have the exact same pants. I was like, oh!
But just the little ball busting and things
I know.
like that.
It's a great thing. It's
very real.
Heavy reminded me of kind of like Vic and Beast Boy.
Right.
Garth. Just that, Garth.
Yeah. It adds. It's nice because McKeever's picking people that add a very familiar dynamic to the team, but they have their own unique issues that it keeps it fresh. He understands what makes a good teen drama book and keeps it going. This is one that people, if you're missing this book, it's a great book because it's very contained, in the sense that, it's the Titans universe. You can go ahead and read Teen Titans right now and just read this book and enjoy it. The Terror Titans miniseries, you're going to want to pick up only because of the fact that it's so good and it ties into this whole thing, but you really don't need to be reading that to understand any of what's going on here, and I'm sure it's going to be clear when it's done how it intersects back in, but you're going to want to read it anyway just because it's great McKeever writing and it's a fun series. But this book, this main Teen Titans book, has gotten very, very good. It's gotten the quality's gotten back up again to where it was during the Jeff Johns run.
Yeah.
And this is a can't miss book for me. It's another one. I do grab it right away now. And so it's one, and it's sad, I don't feel like I mention it enough. Because it's one of those books that I just enjoy and I read it and I have a good time with it and I forget to mention it, if that makes any sense at all. But Wonder Dog, that whole bit, and just how the resolution of the Wonder Dog thing, and the teamwork involved in all that, it was for me just a very exciting issue. So I wanted to just shout it out real quick. I want to talk real quick briefly. I got a few more things. I'm just going to talk about them briefly. I'm not going to go as in depth. But I want to talk about the ending of Green Arrow's run for Judd Winnick, 13 and 14. We got to see those great issues with Mia and Dodger's first date, the new status quo for Connor, when he came, basically getting back to coherence, and the fact that he doesn't have all of his memories, doesn't remember everything, and things have changed a little bit for him. Certain things he remembers clearly, other things he doesn't remember clearly, like his use of the bow and arrow, for example.
Yeah, I can actually outshoot him now. Cool.
Yeah. I couldn't. But it was the interesting end of the era, and I really was glad that he got to kind of close this up. It's funny, when this Green Arrow and Black Canary book kicked off, we were talking about it like crazy, and it was one of my top 5 books every month. It slipped a little bit as the story continued, because the story seemed to go on a little too long, at least, for me. And I enjoyed it every issue. I was having a good time with it. It was still a book that made me smile, but I was ready for the whole resolution. But I will say this. The quality jumped up again so much with issues 13 and 14. I don't think I would have felt that if that run had been any shorter, because I think it built an emotional tie to the events and what happened there and gave us some more time with these characters. I really liked this run, though. 13 and 14 particularly, too. If you jumped off at some point, 13 and 14 are really easy to pick up and read because they're post the events in issue 12 with the resolution of that whole storyline. So you can pick them up and get 2 really good Green Arrow and Black Canary issues without really having... They fill you in enough on the details on what happened, and it's worth picking up.
Yeah, and they're more Arrow family stories than Green Arrow, Black Canary. It's more of just who they are inside and out of the costume. So
now... I'm thinking, from what I'm reading, that they're going to straight Green Arrow, Black Canary in the next, with the new writer. It seems like it's going to be the same art team, but we're going to be getting a new writer on. How do you feel about that? Because, see, to me, I'm excited for a new writer. I'm excited to see new stories. I'm really excited for that. I've loved Connor and Mia in the book. I'm not against the idea, though, of really Ollie and Dinah focused. How do you feel about that? Where are you at? Because I know Team Arrow has been kind of a big draw for you.
Yeah, I am a little bit nervous because I do like Team Arrow, and I do like that concept. Now, obviously, I'm going to give it a shot, give it a read-through, see what we get, and I'm hoping we're going to see Mia go back over to Teen Titans, be part of that roster, because I'd love to see McKeever deal with her and her issues and whatnot, so... Yeah. There's a lot of possibilities of greatness out there. There's a lot of possibilities of disappointment. So I'm going in this with an open mind.
I am too,
and I want to see what I'm going to see, and before I make the judgment. If I was talented enough to be a writer, I would never separate Team Arrow. Just that the Arrow family. I would continue on with what we're seeing with Connor, just finding his way, finding out who is Connor Hawk.
It would depend on the pitch, though.
Yeah.
Because there were some great stories, and see, that's where we have a difference of experience. Ollie and Dinah had some wonderful stories in the previous series, actually I'm going 2 series ago with Mike Grell. There were some great stories with the two of them, especially with Dinah now being a main headline player. She's graduated to that. She's one of the big players in the DC universe right now. It would be interesting to see the two of them having missions more that oriented and that type of thing. So I'm walking in very open minded as well. I'm excited. Just because I haven't seen this writer write these characters. That's why I'm tentative. So I think when that issue comes out, we definitely need to do a cover-to-cover of it, because I want to take a look at what that looks like. So it's the next issue that's going to be coming out. It's 15. It's going to be the new writer, so we can actually take a look at how we're feeling about that. We'll definitely do a cover-to-cover on that one. Because I've enjoyed Green Arrow and Black Canary. It's been one of those books, and it's about time we redo it anyway. So let's do a cover-to-cover on number 15 for sure. Real quick, Top 10 Season 2, number 2. It just continues to please. If you're not reading this book, do yourself a favor. Imagine building a relationship with a robot like Data from Star Trek. Then having that character die. So this is somebody who people have loved adamantly. And if anybody who watched that Star Trek Next Generation know that, the relationships that Data built with so many people, Geordi and the Captain and, just various people on there. Now the clone comes in and takes over. Not the same one. This is another robot that looks identical, acts very similar, goes by the same name. What do you do now? That's one of the main...
Oh, that'd be a tough one.
That's one of the main threads of issue 2, and I'm not going to spoil anything beyond that. That's just one of the themes that is going through. But there is this continuation then of Slipstream Phoenix, where he actually starts earning a lot more respect in this issue from his fellow teammates, but people are still assuming he is one of the goody two-shoes guys that has been put in the team, has been put in the precinct for the purpose of ratting out people who aren't sticking to the code. And there's issues with, taking out weapons that are considered too heavy ordnance. And one of my favorite bits is one of the situations to deal with it is a house that's living and alive, a possessed haunted house. The house is actually an entity. And they have to deal with the fact that this house is bitter and upset because it used to be in a quiet, isolated neighborhood and everything got built up around it. It was too noisy. So it takes hostages, but puts the eyes of the house are the upper 2 windows, so that's where the hostages are, so they can't take out the house's eyes. It was very cool.
Oh, nice.
Just little tiny, this weird and wacky things happen in that book, but they all make sense. Yeah. And the artwork's really detailed. I encourage anybody who reads this, there's a couple sequences that take place in the bathroom. And they're in the bathroom because one of the characters is getting physically sick. Gene Ha puts these intense details in his artwork. There is writing all over the walls of the bathroom stalls. And you can read them. They're funny little comments that are over there. Some of them are comic book related. There's graffiti that, about Dan DiDio in places, not just on there in the walls in various houses and things like that. It's just little tiny things. Like you can actually go back and look through the artwork and it's like a little tiny detail thing to kind of look back through. A lot of them made me chuckle. So it was just kind of little tiny things like that I really appreciate. So it's a fun series that I can't encourage people enough to grab. And please do not feel, we said it last episode, do not feel like you have to have read any top 10 to enjoy this. It'll make you want to read more top 10. But you can read this series by itself, and it's very much so a new status quo. It tells you everything you need to know about every character, so you can really get on board on this one. This book rocks. I want to talk about Tiny Titans number 10 really quick. Forget to feed the pets. The pets follow after them. It's a Supergirl Batgirl story with Streaky the cat and Ace the bat dog. Where they both want to go out and have a tea party, but Batman and Superman tell them both to feed their pets. Well, they're so caught up in the tea party they forget to feed the pets. So the pets follow them. And, it's a dog and a cat that encounter each other for the first time and, they growl at each other and all that. But then when they realize that they're both hungry and they've got the same, problem because their stomachs are growling, they help each other. trying to find them. Every time they catch up with them, the girls have moved on because Bizarro's too loud, so they can't have their tea party there. Killer Croc is too loud, so they can't have their tea party there. The end where they find out what happened and somebody's sad and they realize it's their pets, everyone, including Croc and Bizarro, are at the tea party. It's only Tiny Titans where it works. It's a laugh a minute. The whole element of the whole, it's just charming. It's fun. There's so many inside little jokes along the way for fans of either the Superman franchise or the Batgirl franchise. And it's just one of those books that there's a pinup at the end where Franco does this wonderful Batgirl with the triangle cape. You know when Batman swings in and they got like the triangle look to the cape. It's this Batgirl that they do, but in that fashion. It looks great.
Cool.
It's a cool pinup. Everything about the issue makes me smile. This is a title when people say, if you had to cut down your list, what titles would you cut? This is one will not leave my stack. I enjoy it way too much. It's just such an exciting and fun read. I also want to give everyone a quick shout out. If you go to DCComics.com right now, Supergirl, the Adventures in the 8th Grade, that one new series is coming out, there are preview pages there available for that book. So if you click on it, the first few pages of it you can read. That's another one that I'm excited to chat about because that looks like a
yeah, that does look really cool.
Yeah, I mean it's Cosmic Adventures in the 8th Grade, I believe, is what it's called. But that's one if you haven't seen it, you're gonna go ahead and grab it. Jim, I don't know if you have anything else, but do you have anything else Speeding Bulls fans?
Yeah, kind of Brave and the Bold number 19.
Oh yeah.
This is the first issue of a 4-issue arc.
Mm-hmm.
David Hine, art by Doug Braithwaite and Bill Reinhold. Definitely a different look to it, a really cool story, and it was something I was like, I picked this up, read it, I was like, man, this is a nice story. This is a cool team up. It was Green Lantern and the Phantom Stranger, which for me, when I saw that, I was like, okay, this is a really bizarre team up. What are they going to do with this? And I liked it because in this team up, Phantom Stranger definitely has his place. He definitely has his role in it, but this is predominantly, if you will, a Green Lantern story. Even future issues, we're seeing Green Lantern, Phantom Stranger, Green Lantern with Green Arrow, within this arc. So this is a strong Green Lantern story, but you have those little weird elements that the Phantom Stranger adds into it. Basic overall kind of plot and whatnot of it is there is this hospital, if you will, kind of like, asylum that has these children who are products of a fertility experimentation. And these kids are mutated. Some do not have eyes. Some do not communicate. And there was this one who started scribbling in a foreign language. And it's a foreign alien language. And the final capstone that really got the heroes into this was the one girl is writing on the wall, wrote the Green Lantern code. Now, how is the kid going to know this? Who knows? This is all part of where it brings the Green Lantern into this. They start doing some research. They explore the alien planet that's the alien text is writing, and you get some really cool moments with the Green Lantern from that sector and Hal Jordan teaming up. So you got cool Green Lantern, combination, some fight sequences as they're dealing with some smugglers from that planet, but it's also, everything is building to this overall giant story of this mystery of how these kids, mutated special children on Earth are getting connected to this alien race that's on the brink of disaster. So it's a build, but it's still that action, that cool fight sequences. Definitely looking forward to the next couple issues. As I said, Green Arrow is going to be in there, some more Phantom Stranger, who keeps popping in and out in his strange and mysterious ways. That is the Phantom Stranger, yeah. But it's still, I was like, oh, yeah.
And he's a character you don't see a whole lot of.
No.
So when you do see him and he's used like this, I remember him in the old Brave and the Bold with Batman. I'm talking about the original series. And he's always he plays into these books really well. So it's interesting.
Yeah, this is the first issue. I think the next issue, the second issue of it is, I think, the 17th. So, definitely this is a cool pickup moment. 4-issue arc, nice artwork. It's a definite different looking style than some of the other books I'm reading right now. So it was a cool kind of palette cleanser for me. I was like, yeah.
You have to have the cleanest palette on the planet.
Yes, I do. And minty fresh breath.
It's no wonder I have vision issues. It's that shiny palette you have. I always laughed. Jim Sensei of the Whatnot Segulin for palate cleansing comics. Are you getting bogged down in continuity? Do you feel like your palate's covered in tar? Try an issue of Brave and the Bold. It'll get your palate shiny and new. I want to talk about a couple news items this week because there's been some interesting discussion on the forum. And it's funny, I always like to talk about some of the things that we discuss on the forum, especially when they get lively, because I like people to hear my voice and tone in them, because it's one of the things, like, I don't know how you are with forums, Jim. Well, I've got a love-hate relationship with them. I love them in the sense that you see how many posts I have in our forum. I genuinely enjoy the discussion and all that. I hate the fact, though, that it's hard for people a lot of times to understand the tone of where you're coming from. That, sometimes when you've got a smile on something that comes off as aggressive, and I am admittedly, when I have my own emotions, as you've seen on the as you've heard on the show, I get very aggressively passionate about things that I want to chat about. So I'll write like these 8 pages of responses to a one-line question or something. But it's probably the most sincere compliment I can give to the person is that I try to keep up with as many, if not all, of the comments on the show. I usually do pretty good on it. I'm pretty close to any of the ones that are in the forum, the ones that are specifically in our show threads. But when I take the time to really go after pages and pages, it means that you started a topic that was interesting to me. And even if I don't agree, it was a great topic, and we don't have to all agree. It's kind of the fun of the debate. It is one of the things, though, that I encourage people when you go to forums to be that person that's kind of that agent of good-spirited debate versus tearing down somebody's opinion, if that makes sense. Share yours and share your perspective on people's comments. I admit I'm not exactly the best at it all the time either. But the other thing I want to encourage people to do is if you don't like something and you want to vent and you want to rant about it, I think that's cool. That's fine. I'm not against people voicing comments about things they don't like. We produce a very honest podcast. We didn't go out of our way to be positive. This just kind of is who we are, and this is how we wind up being this way. But in the forum, if you respond to anything like that, all I encourage you to do is, if you're doing a negative rant about something, do just as passionate a positive rant about something that you're enjoying. Not necessarily in that thread, but in another thread. Do what you can to breed that discussion as well, so it's a balanced discussion. Because I think a lot of times with comics where people get bogged down is it's hard to find, when they're not enjoying a comic to leap to, because a lot of the rants seem to be people complaining about things that they don't like. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that. But do what you can to also provide the positive piece where people can see why people are liking things so they know what to jump to. That's kind of the end of my little tirade on that. We're lucky in our forum, though, that we get a lot of that, where people will, jump on and start posting, hey, guys, have you been reading this? Our listener rant thread is filled with stuff like that. It's one of the reasons why I linked that listener rant thread directly to our website, because I know there's people who don't want to join the forum, but then people can go and just peruse that and see what our listeners are posting about books that they've done during the week. So anybody, just so you know, if you post our listener rant thread on our forum, those are comments that are linked on our website, too, so listeners who don't join the forum read them like articles. Because Skajam and Mart and just a lot of people, and there's some people who post quick comments, which is great. Some people who post big, long, full reviews on there. So I wanted a way to make that more article-based, where people could quickly get to them and read them, and those guys feel like, all those people that are posting in there feel like, hey, people are reading these and they're enjoying them and getting something out of them, and that's great. So even if you don't join the forum, you can participate by reading them. One of the things I want to talk about, though, Superman has been a kind of a controversial thing. A lot of people are jumping on Superman, and a lot of people who have been longtime Superman fans are, and I didn't realize, I guess I was kind of, I get like this. I assume because I'm liking and loving something, that it's natural. Everybody's liking it.
Everyone has to, yeah.
Because you and I have been Superman happy. But there really is, and I was looking around in various forums, there is a large group of people who are really concerned about the status quo change and where things are heading with it. And one of the areas where, and I can understand this, Action Comics, Greg Rucka and Eddie Barrows are going to be jumping on board in it, but it's going to be, instead of it being a Superman book, for 12 issues, it looks like it's going to be a Nightwing and Flamebird book, which is, I didn't know if you knew that.
I did not know that, and you can see the shocked look on my face as you're telling me this. I'm like, wow.
So it's this new Nightwing and Flamebird that they just introduced are going to be in there. This is obviously spinning out of all of New Krypton and what's happening here. Now, there's an article on Newsarama and I am going to be pulling elements from it. To do it justice, really do yourself a favor and go to newsarama.com and read the article. It's a really good article. It's worth reading. It's an interview with Greg Rucka on Action Comics, where he obviously there's certain things that he doesn't want to spoil because he doesn't want to ruin it, but he became part of this. This is all basically in the Superman Bible that's been crafted for the next few years of Superman storytelling. And this is interesting. I like Eddie Barrow's artwork a lot. We've been talking about Teen Titans. It's kind of like bittersweet because I'm like, well, that'll be cool because I love Eddie Barrow's artwork, because Gary Frank and Jeff Johns are jumping off that book to do the Superman Secret Origin miniseries. That's going to be a miniseries instead. So we're going to be getting, what he did in Green Lantern is going to be in there. And I'm sure that story is in some way going to be setting up future storytelling as well, very similar to what the Green Lantern one did. So I'm excited for that. I'm glad they're doing that as a mini, because then we can continue on with this. But I'm wondering, what this is going to be like without Superman there. So it's an interesting point. For me, here's what fixes it for me, the Greg Rucka name. I love Greg Rucka's writing, so I'm on board for that purpose. I will admit, like other people, I'm a little bit tentative about the fact that there's no Superman going to be in there. But a Nightwing Flamebird story, and I gotta admit, the tactile telekinesis has got me a little bit more interested. I'm like, oh, all right. I want to know what that's all about. They said they're two characters that we've seen before, which I'm wondering if perhaps Flamebird is Firehawk. It's kind of, I'm just throwing my...
Yeah.
I'm digging on that, but I'm praying and hoping that Nightwing is Connor.
Yeah, see, the two things that are, keeping me into this is the fact that it is, Rucka. That is a name that, I trust, and I'm curious to see what he does with it. I do have issues with the fact that we're seeing Action Comics without Superman. There is, right now, in my head, just kind of a conflict going on. Now, part of me is like, well, there's so many other characters in the Superman universe they could have pulled from. They could have made Action Comics more about, the different, sidekick, the different, support structure. Maybe make Action Comics more about Olsen, Lois, Crypto,
There's a
things
reason
like that.
for this, though.
But,
and that's going to be in the Superman book.
Okay.
So we are getting that.
Okay.
That's going to be I think that's going to be the Robinson book that's doing that. But here's what Rucka says, and this actually does help. He said, Superman's not in it, but it doesn't mean Superman's not there. And this is a direct quote from the Newsarama article. You can't have the DCU without Superman. Even when he's dead, he had a presence. And so, no, he's not in action, but everything that happens in action is influenced by him, and a lot happens because of him. So I'm thinking this story is spinning out of things that, are because of Superman. I know it's going to be a small consolation for people who pick up Action to see Superman, because you're not going to see him in action. But it's still Action Comics. It's still a Superman book, and his fingerprints are all over it. His morality, his ethic, who he is, what makes him Superman, influences that book, and certainly influences Flamebird and Nightwing, even though Flamebird and Nightwing believe a very different mandate. They're very mission-oriented, for lack of a better phrase, and, a mission-oriented story with Greg Rucka, there's a very specific arc they're following over these 12 issues, and on the face of it, people may think this is being set up to really fly in the face of Superman, and it really doesn't. So much of what Superman is about, methodology, about how he does what he does, why he does what he does, and what he's willing to do, and what he isn't willing to do. Those are huge influences that were made in the book. So definitely, and that's just an answer to one of the questions that of the many that he answers in the Newsarama article, so definitely go read that, because I'm not going to read the whole article. But that was a section where it particularly for me got me interested. It's Greg Rucka, and for you, and people are very different in how they approach things. I will say that a certain creator will influence me quickly to try something out and to give it a chance. I'm tentative because the fact that where am I going to get Superman? Is kind of my question at the moment.
Yeah.
And, I'm liking the fact right now that I'm getting multiple issues of Clark every week. Not multiple issues every week, but I'm getting Clark every week in the books with the way the triangle system's working. Now we're going to this, and I'm going to be getting Flamebird and Nightwing. I'm tentative, but Rucka and Eddie Barrows, it's swaying me towards I'm definitely intrigued tentatively.
And it's funny, the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm kind of, liking the fact that they're going with Flamebird and Nightwing in the Action Comics and not doing like a mini series of them. And so it's definitely filling in where they are going to fill in the roles in the DC universe, where they kind of fit into the overall scheme of things that is Superman. Whereas if they had done a side miniseries, it would have seemed more like just going for greed. This is saying this is part of the story. This isn't about trying to sell more comics and make money. This is about this overall theme and idea we have.
And reading this will play back into your Superman reading, because inevitably, obviously, Superman's going to be back in Action Comics. And maybe sooner rather than later. I don't know. I don't know how this is going to work out. It's really interesting. So I don't know. I'm curious. What do you think of Superman going to space? Do you have concerns with that? Obviously, he's going to be, kind of exiling himself. I don't know. I mean, that's all we know is that he's going off into space. So we don't know the details. I don't necessarily want to know right now, but how do you feel about him being gone from Earth?
See, now, are we not going to see stories with him physically in it, or are we going to see stories of him in space?
I'm guessing we're going to see stories with him.
See, if we're going to see stories with him in space, I really don't have too bad of an issue with it, because I'm like, okay, I'm still going to get my Superman story. I'm going to get him in a different environment, which could lead for some interesting storytelling. But if we're going to get where we're not going to see him and he's just going to be gone, then I'm going to be a little bit, I don't know, because I like seeing Superman around.
So I know my number one concern is with that. What would be most affected by him leaving Earth? Because it's being billed as him leaving Earth and maybe never coming back.
Well, that would be Lois's death.
No.
I would say Lois's death.
See, I guess I'm not worried about them killing her.
Ma? Are you thinking Ma?
No, I'm not. I guess I'm not. I guess I wasn't looking at a death, but I'm like, well, that would be a reason that would, make him want to go. I can't see them killing Lois Lane. I can't. They better not.
Yeah, see, I couldn't either. But
or Ma.
That's the first thing about him wanting to leave Earth and never return would be that.
I'm more concerned. They're married. What happens if he's leaving forever?
Oh yeah, a divorce.
Or what does that do to that relationship? So that's my big fear.
I don't know. It's
I don't know. And you understand this is speculation at the moment. I'm intrigued. I'm going to read it though, because I'm enjoying. See, the thing is, right now I'm enjoying what I'm reading. I think if people aren't enjoying the current direction, like New Krypton, if they aren't enjoying that, I would say if you're enjoying New Krypton, don't be worried. Just keep following it and enjoy it and see what happens, and watch it unfold and just have some faith. If you're not enjoying New Krypton, I would imagine that people are kind of like, oh, I'm not liking this, and now you're taking Superman away altogether. So I'm liking. I mean, like we just talked about Superman, and we're both enjoying that. So for me, I'll keep going on this ride because I'm enjoying the ride so far heavily. It's interesting. It's a gamble. It's quite a gamble.
This is a big gamble.
Yeah, it could pay off big time in the sense that the noise generated, could bring new readers. But the danger of that, and it's when you do these big status quo shaking things, it's a gamble in the sense that you risk what's going to happen with people that came to the book and have been reading the book for years to read Superman. Now he's not going to be there. So it's interesting.
Yeah, the DC Nation panels should be very interesting.
Yeah.
With comments.
I'm curious to see.
Comments and questions and whatnot.
Well, it's hard to without actually having read the product. Like for me, I'm tentative, like I'm saying now, but I'm not saying I won't read it because I've got to read it first. If I don't like it, I'll say I don't like it. But I am. It's funny. I'm thinking positively because I've been enjoying so much of where it's going right now. But it's funny. The big worry for me is Clark and Lois.
Yeah,
I'm very protective of that relationship.
Yeah, I love that marriage.
Yes.
I love just the relationship and just how each one strengthens the other, and just they bring out the good.
Right.
They make them more gooder.
But that was what do you think of Secret Origin as a mini instead of being contained in one of the books?
Once again, part of me was thinking, they could have done that and gone with Flamebird and Nightwing as the mini, but then I'm like, I don't know. It's one of those, had they done it either way, I probably would have picked up the mini, but I guarantee you, it would have been less of a likelihood for me to pick up a Flamebird and Nightwing mini than a Superman Secret Origin mini. Mm-hmm. So on a business side, for me, I'm going to pick up I'm jumping on that mini of the Superman Secret Origin.
And it's Johns and Frank.
It's Johns and, yeah.
I'm really excited for that. It's funny. Every convention we've been at least one of the DC Nation panels, when are we finally going to get a definitive origin of what Superman is post-Infinite Crisis? And this is it. This has got to be it. So I wonder how much has been how much they're allowed to use of the things that have been tied up in legal wranglings. That's going to be interesting. Because that, I'm sure, is what's held this off for so long.
Yeah.
Why we didn't get this a little bit sooner. I am glad, though, because with them just doing a Green Lantern one, I wouldn't have wanted a Superman running concurrently. I'm excited to read the Superman now because the Green Lantern one was so good and added to the mythos while at the same time, keeping true to the character. It is interesting. The one other thing that he talked about that I wanted to mention, he talked about a project he's been working on for months and months. And, we've heard rumors at different convention panels about this. And they thought that post-Final Crisis was the time to release it. I'm assuming this is just from the teasers in the back and the DC Nation ones that we're seeing in the books now. This is a Batwoman-based book, perhaps with the Question. I heard rumors of Girls of Gotham. I don't know what it is, but I'm definitely hoping it's something that's going to fill in the category that Birds of Prey used to if we're not going to have Birds of Prey. I'm not saying that it has to be Birds of Prey 2, but I'm saying,
right.
Something where it takes some female characters and gives it a chance to showcase them and spotlight them and build them up, because I'm excited for Power Girl for that reason. And, these are characters. Batwoman is, I want to read more Batwoman. I really do.
I want to read more about her. I want to see Renee again. And I don't want Barbara to go away.
I don't
She
either.
is just a wonderful character. And, definitely with her, some of the stuff from that we're seeing in Birds of Prey right now, where she's talking about how they're finishing up in Platinum Flats. And
right.
I see her, after that, going back to Gotham.
Right.
So if there is going to be a Women of Gotham, I could see, Barbara playing a part in it.
I would love that.
Yeah.
I would love
Heck,
that.
I would love to see her in the regular Batman title as kind of like, a coordinator, appearing in all of the different Bat titles, just because she is such a confidant to all of them.
Now, here's an interesting question. This has been thrown out and teased. Now, I'm not saying that they're going this direction, so please, for everybody, this is just speculation. Not even speculation. It's a question I'm throwing out there. Barbara Gordon as Oracle or Barbara Gordon as Batgirl?
Oracle. And they could even give her the use of her legs again. For me, the wheelchair is part of who she is, and I like the fact that she has this disability and she overcomes it and she uses it as her strength. Mm-hmm. But I like her as Oracle. I think she is, a really cool hero as Oracle, as the guide, as the mentor, as the coordinator, the communicator, the whatnot of the DC universe. That is Oracle, and it's a really cool character.
Because you don't have a better word.
Whenever I get lost, throw in a whatnot. Okay, that's the secret to the sensei.
I'm like listening to this thing. I'm digging everything you're saying, and I'm waiting for it. I'm like, what are you going to say? What, he threw that in there again? Would you be mad if she went back to being Batgirl?
I wouldn't say mad.
Okay.
I'm gonna get chewed apart for this one by people, but I would see it as a step back. I saw her, develop Oracle and become Oracle as a growth of her as a person and her as a hero.
An evolution.
Right. It's kind of like seeing Nightwing put the pixie boots back on.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, so
this is kind of a logical
right.
progression for her.
Yeah.
Speaking of Nightwing, what if Nightwing, Nightwing could become Batman? Nightwing might not be Nightwing. What if Nightwing becomes Red Robin?
I'd love that. I would honestly.
So you don't take that as a step back. You take that. How do you take that?
I take Red Robin is the growth of Robin. So this is Nightwing saying, I am, a member of the Bat family. I'm not Batman. I'm not going to take Nightwing because that was a side name, and plus there's now another Nightwing running around. I am Robin.
So this is showing that he's evolved from the Nightwing, because when he took on the Nightwing identity, he was kind of branching off on his own. This is more of a showing of solidarity, you take it, if he was. Yeah. And I'm not saying he's becoming Red Robin. I'm just throwing it out there. What if it is Dick Grayson that becomes Red Robin?
Yeah, and we saw in the Elseworld stuff.
Because it could be Jason, it could be somebody else. I don't know.
But we saw in the Elseworld stuff that's why Dick Grayson became Red Robin, was because he was grown up. He wasn't Robin the Boy Wonder anymore. Mm-hmm. He was Red Robin. He still has that. He still is proud of who he is and where he comes from, but he is an adult.
Right.
So it's kind of like, Kid Devil becoming Red Devil. He dropped the kid.
Yeah.
He's grown up. He's matured. Now, Tim staying as Robin for the rest of his life, I don't have a problem with that because he's made Robin a cool character. But I see...
And he's really adapted the identity to his own. Whereas, I don't think Jason ever got to that point.
No.
So that's interesting. See, with the Batgirl thing for me, I'm very leery on it too. And I'm not saying that's happening. There's been, that question gets thrown out every so often, and we get a very kind of general answer that never really gives us enough information. I agree that it would be a step back if they completely ignore Oracle. I wouldn't mind seeing her get her legs back and have reasons to don the costume in situations. But I would like her to still stay, and I'm saying if they go in this direction, I would like her to still stay in that Oracle role where she is more of the coordinator, the leader, the, kind of the hands and the connecting piece of the DC universe. I always liked that about her, how in some ways, she was your go-to person for just about everything. And I think that gave her a unique identity that in this day and age of technology where we are all interconnected like this, it gave her a unique and interesting identity that I don't want to see lost. So Oracle's really important to me as, a character. Barbara Gordon's really important to me in who she's become. So that's interesting. I don't know that I want to see her leap back to being Batgirl. I'm not saying she is.
Right.
That's popped up a few times, so I was just curious about it.
And I am definitely firmly in the camp that would like to see Barbara and Dick get together.
Oh, I would too.
I
would too.
I would so have no problem whatsoever with him settling down with her.
So what if they get together and that's why she might become Batgirl again?
Batgirl and Red Robin. Mm-hmm. Then again, I wouldn't have an issue with that because I'd be like, oh, okay. Now, I still would.
And this is pure. Please, everybody on there, like, if you're like totally against this, we're just shooting off the cuff on just little. You get fed a little tidbit where somebody mentions at a convention or in an interview or something like that. Barbara Gordon is Batgirl. We're shooting off of those type of things. There's nothing that's been announced, so please do not take that with a grain. It's to me, it's interesting speculation as a fan, to kind of geeky talk about these kind of things. So I just want to clarify.
And I would like
to.
And honestly, if she were to get her legs back and get being able to be physically
get her legs back like they're gone.
True. She has her ability to walk.
In that
her ability
Brainiac
to
one,
fight.
we did see that the legs were getting feeling back, and
right.
that there was something like that. So that evolution has been kind of put in place, sort of.
Yeah. If she were able to physically, get back into the fight, I still would kind of like to see her as a different character other than Batgirl. If she's not going to be Oracle, the Master Manipulator, I would like to see her as blank. I don't know what the name would be. I don't know what she would call herself, but
It's kind of funny. Do you know Prometheus? Do you know who that villain is? Prometheus? It's funny because I know you didn't read Morrison's JLA, so I don't know.
The name is familiar, but I can't place it right now.
You've seen him, but and I'm not surprised. They did an event years and years ago called New Year's Evil, where they had Prometheus in there, and he was a big character that was in the JLA series for Grant Morrison as a new villain that he created that really was a major adversary for the whole Magnificent Seven at that point, which was all the big guns: Aquaman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman, Flash, Green Lantern. That whole crew had trouble with this guy. So he's one of those that had the Hush problem. Where remember how Hush kind of got diluted over time and needed to be reinvigorated? Well, Sterling Gates, who I'm loving on Supergirl, is going to be doing the Faces of Evil special, which is kind of like a prelude of sorts to Prometheus appearing in the James Robinson Justice League series that's going to be coming out. So he's kind of like looking to reinvigorate that character in a similar way. This was one, if for any fans of the JLA series, you'll remember Prometheus. If not, I'm excited to read this because he's really looking to bring him back to prominence again. And it's a cool character that has a lot of potential. And it's interesting, though, that we see this character again in a one-shot to be kind of reintroduced in that fashion again. And I'm kind of excited for that. So I thought it was an interesting, cool thing to see. Are there any characters or heroes or villains, Jim, that you feel at the moment need to be reinvigorated? Is there anybody that, and heroes or villains, it could be anybody. Is there anybody that you're saying, wow, geez, it'd be nice if they kind of revamped this one?
That's a toughie. I don't know.
I don't know if there's anybody. The Penguin was one of those that came to mind for me. Now, and here's one that I not necessarily needs to be reinvigorated, but it's bittersweet, and I don't mean this anyways to be insensitive. I was really enjoying what was going on with Dr. Fate and Countdown to Mystery, and it's kind of one of those things. I was so excited for the solo series that I really wish, and I'm not saying, it's funny, I've got to give and clarify on this. I'm not saying right now that I want someone to take that character and launch a series or something with them because I would have loved to see where that storytelling would have gone.
Yeah, I know. That
So
was,
it's more of
yeah.
a wish, I wish that we could have, because it was that, and it's more of a compliment to the writer versus being insensitive to it, because I really was liking the foundation that was being laid in place there. So that's a character where I'm like, geez, I love the whole Doctor, because we talked about it leading up, before, when there was the announcement of the Dr. Fate series, how cool that would be. And when we got to see the execution in Countdown to Mystery, I'm like, ooh, I really, and especially it had this nice slow build, and it really was one of those, in order to appreciate it, you really needed to see the later issues as well as the beginning issues in order to really see the foundation piece that was put in there. And I really started to like him a lot. And I'm liking seeing him in Rain and Hell and all that, but it's not the same as what we would have gotten.
Right.
And that was, so it's kind of a bittersweet thing. I'm just trying to think if there's other characters. I'm excited for Zatanna.
Yeah,
But
Zatanna.
not so much a revamp versus just getting kind of a solo series. Power Girl.
Firestorm, I would like to see more. We're seeing
Yeah.
we're seeing a really cool character in Trinity, and he's now in the JLA, so we'll get to see a little bit more of him. That's a character I would like to see them, do a little bit more with.
I think it's really too bad. I wish that an anthology would do well, and it just, market-wise, it's been shown that they just don't do so hot. They might start off strong initially if with a much hyped storyline that's one of the leads, but then they just kind of tank. And I would love to see a really good DC anthology take some of these characters that, villains too, because it'd be cool to see, because they used to put villain stories in them as well, and it'd be fun to kind of spotlight characters that way and really let creators kind of go hog wild and really build the series, in that kind of fashion. I'd love to see it. I just, obviously we won't. I kind of been a broken record with that. It is interesting. Fables, you're reading Fables and Jack of Fables. You said in trade,
Right,
though,
in trade.
Right? Okay. They're going to be doing a mini-series on the Cinderella character
Ooh.
from Fables, which it's not going to be written by Willingham, but it's interesting. Are you familiar with the Cinderella character? She's got like that super spy one in
Right.
it, and it's going to have that kind of storytelling for it. So I'm interested to read that story. I think it's going to be I believe a 6-issue series it's going to be, but they said it's going to be a story about spies, sex, and shoes. That we find out what happened to Cindy's fairy godmother, and that happiness isn't always forever. And this is another one from Newsarama that I got. But I was looking around and I saw these, and I'm like, wow, there's some interesting things coming out from even Vertigo. Are you worried, Jim, at all, with the economy kind of going down, people losing retirement funds and those type of things kind of tanking for people, and investments kind of going down? There was a lot of talk about comics publications that are, kind of tanking because of this, unfortunately. Are you worried about the industry, the comics industry, in the sense that people are going to be tightening up their dollars and what they're spending on comics? And because that's kind of the part where, to me, that's why I'm encouraging people, go ahead. If something's frustrating you, angry, do it. Go get those rants out there. Get it out of your system, because that's part of the fun of forums, is being able to be honest and open and do all that. But definitely try to, because a lot of times, I don't see the same people always, and this isn't about anybody specific, I'm just saying in general, do that positive rant about those books that you are equally passionate about on the other side, because I think this industry needs that right now. For people that I think visit forums that don't read comics, I think they need to be able to get those things where, wow, look at the people talking about this book. You know what I mean? So definitely try to balance it out with a book that you're really enjoying. If you're not liking something that's going on in, book A, rant about book B that you're enjoying just as much as you did the other rant. And that's kind of my call to action on that. I'm kind of worried about just with dollars being, we're seeing things, stores closing around us and stuff like that, major chains that are kind of tanking because of this. I'm kind of worried about the industry right now, because I'm loving so much of what I'm reading. I don't want to see smaller books tank.
Yes and no.
Okay.
It's, looking at it, I look at the business cycle, and the business cycle is basically you have your ups and your downs, and it's, the market, the economy isn't a constant. You will have periods, your highs and lows. We're at the low right now. We have a very strong potential to start seeing a rise up within a couple of years. Now, how long will a company last? How long will smaller, the independent presses last? Mm-hmm. Can they last? I don't know. Companies like Marvel and DC, I don't see them hurting as bad. Maybe we're going to see stuff like Blue Beetle and Birds of Prey and Manhunter get canceled. But we're not going to see like Justice
them being
League. Replaced
by
right.
There's other titles that are coming out and other things like Power Girl and
right.
things like. We're seeing other titles that are being announced that they're going to be trying out. So it really does seem like they're cutting some and they're trying new concepts
right.
to see if they'll
stick. They're cutting instead of just adding new. And that's, if the economy was a lot better and people had more free money to spend, I think they wouldn't have cut the titles. They would have just added the titles, figuring people would have more free money that they could use. But you have to look at it. And this is also one of the things where, looking at digital comics may, help the industry because you won't have printing costs.
Right.
Everything will be electronically stored. And
I saw Marvel is offering more exclusive digital comics where they're just digital. So I'm wondering. See, I guess I like these Watchmen things that they've been doing. I downloaded that, and I downloaded N from Stephen King, and they're voice based and all that. I guess to me, I was looking at those cost wise are pretty close to what a regular issue would cost. But you're getting, music and, like audio and all that. So there's motion to them. So there's an interesting twist there. But I wish there was a straight digital distribution system where they could, as a company, recoup all their costs. The problem with that is, though, then you got to look at the comic shops, and are they going to take a hit because of that? So it's an interesting conundrum with, where should the industry head and what should that look like? And it's something that enters my head all the time because I see good books canceled, and it bugs me. A Blue Beetle and a Manhunter being canceled, that irritates me, because they're good books. They're really, really good books. And to see those canceled, that bugs me because I want to read more of their adventures. I want to see more of those characters. I'm just as excited for the new titles that are being announced. It's just I didn't want them in place of. I wanted...
along with.
Right, and we were always under the impression of, and I'm not saying that they're being canceled because those titles are being solicited. I'm just saying I look at it as mentally, okay, this is how many books I'm currently pulling. These books are being canceled. These books are filling in those slots, is the way I'm looking at it, versus I'm adding more slots to my pull list. There's a lot of those titles, though, I would have rather just added more to my pull list versus taking away, especially Blue Beetle and Manhunter. They're ones. Birds of Prey is another one like that. Except I'm wondering if that Greg Rucka series, and I'm speculating here because there's been nothing announced, but they, when they show a picture of Batwoman riding on a cycle, you got to think we're talking about a series that's at least going to either be a solo Batwoman title or it's going to be a team book involving the Question, and the Question would make sense in that book. So I'm hoping it's more than that too. We get to see more characters. But we'll see. So it's interesting.
Can Batman escape? One hint, the worst is yet to come.
Anyway, Jim and I are going to wrap up here because we're going to be back on Monday at the latest with a brand new episode 143. This is meant to be kind of a mini one to kind of bridge between that time so that way you could have some comic commentary from us. Because we had some interesting things that we wanted to chat about, but then we're prepping for a big full day of recording on Saturday, and we're like, how are we going to do all this and get out an episode this week? So we decided to do a mini one and then come back to you a little bit sooner with that episode. So we got a full-blown thing coming. Check the website and the forum for details on what that episode's going to look like, because even at right now, I have no idea until we actually record it what it's going to definitely be. For sure, we're going to talk about JSA because there's a whole bunch of JSA stuff to talk about. We're going to kick off the Doom Patrol discussion. We're going to do some listener voicemails on there, and we have an audio comment that's going to be on there as well. So we do have other content that are going to be on that episode. We're going to do voicemails on this one, but we're looking at the time, and we're going to be... This is meant to be a mini one. We're going to save those for Monday's recording. So any voicemails are on there. We are getting to you. It's just going to be on Monday, and like I said, on Saturday, feel free to send us in your thoughts. We're recording. So we will be there. And we will see you on Monday.
Bye.